and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Thank you, Elvis. In your top stories, the EFF calls on South Africa to end diplomatic relations with Israel and a rise in measles infections in the Northern Cape. This is SAFM News. A very good morning. I am Luyanda Maume. EFF leader Julius Malema has made a global call for the boycott, disinvestment and the implementing of sanctions against Israel. He was speaking during a debate sponsored by his party in the National Assembly titled Removing the Israeli Embassy and Suspension of All Diplomatic Relations with Israel. This as Israel seems unrelenting in its onslaught on Gaza, where thousands of civilians have been killed, many of them children. In recent weeks, marches in support of either Palestine or Israel have taken place in various parts of the country. Malema has called on ANC-led government to take a stand against Israel.
We call on the Ramaphosa ANC government to shut down the Israeli embassy in Pretoria and end diplomatic relations with that brutal apartheid Israel regime. In the name of our own constitutional values, we must end these relations until human rights of Palestinians are respected, promoted and protected.
Malema added that supporting the Israeli occupation of Palestine and the accompanying brutality and violence is a betrayal of the values of the South African Constitution.
As survivors of apartheid ourselves, we must fight on the side of the Palestinian people and always be on the side of the weak. We therefore calling on members of parliament and the people of South Africa to support the call to remove the Palestinian Israeli embassy in South Africa. We can't share a territory with murderers.
A suspect wanted for 2 murders and attempted murder has been arrested in Drift in the east of Pretoria. At the time of the arrest, the suspect was out on bail for multiple violent crimes committed around Tshwane. Hawks says the murder and attempted murder took place in Atteridgeville on Sunday. Hawks spokesperson Katlego Mogale says the vehicle that the suspect was allegedly using was then traced to Drift, where the suspect was arrested.
Upon searching, they found 2 unlicensed firearms, ammunition belonging to a .45 and 9mm, and cell phones. They also confiscated the starlet that was used in the commission of the crime. Further investigations are underway to link the suspect, who is currently out on bail, to multiple crimes of violence that occurred around Tshwane.
The Free State High Court has ordered 30 days imprisonment for Machabeng Executive Mayor Thandukolo Khalipha and Municipal Manager Ronald Ngolko for contempt of a court order. This after they failed to honor the order of the October 31st in which the court ordered the Mayor and Municipal Manager to restore Virginia resident Joseph Ndai's prepaid electricity within 2 hours of the order. It also ordered them to return any property that was seized by municipal employees from Ndai's house to recoup his debt for municipal services. Ndai had a problem with the municipality using estimates for billing residents without doing proper readings.
The situation emanated from where the municipality was not able to resolve my problem. I've been actually sent from pillar to post and everyone pointing me to the other. This happened after I could not get help from the office of the MM, and I tried to get assistance from the office of the executive mayor. Then when that could not also help, then I resorted to say, okay, I'm left with no option but then to take the legal route.
The Umhlatuze municipality at Richards Bay on the KwaZulu-Natal North Coast is taking the government and Transnet to court. It accuses them of failing to maintain rail infrastructure. Municipal Mayor Xolani Ngwezi says they are taking legal steps because of the impact of the congestion of trucks that are delivering cargo, especially coal, to the port. Ngwezi says the problem has reached crisis proportions.
But every role player in this economy here in the city must play his or her own role. We must play our role. Other departments must play their role. For that matter, we have got a tripartite alliance with the port, the ITZ, and the city. But this agreement, seems to be not working really because it is eating on our budget only. There is nothing. This problem here is almost at least 2 or 3 years old.
And finally, infection numbers continue to rise following an outbreak of German measles at a primary school in Philippi's Town in Northern Cape earlier this week. The Provincial Department of Health says surrounding towns in the Karoo region are affected, including Hope Town and DR. Health spokesperson Lulu Mxakezo adds that while there is no cure for the virus, fever medicine can be used to treat it, and the vaccination at a young age is critical.
52 cases have been confirmed so far. 22 in Phillipstown, 17 in Hopetown and 13 in DR. Parents and or guardians are requested to contact their nearest clinic if they recognize any of the symptoms. There is no specific treatment for the condition, but symptoms can be treated with enough rest and medication for fever. Vaccination is effective in preventing rubella and confers lifelong immunity.
Recapping your top story, EFF leader Julius Malema has made a global call for the boycott, disinvestment and the implementing of sanctions against Israel. He was speaking during a debate sponsored by his party in the National Assembly. For SAFM News, I am Luyanda Maume. Headlines at 6:30.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket. The Proteas fighting to the bitter end in that Cricket World Cup semi-final against Australia. And we have soccer. Bafana coach Hugo Broos has set his sights on the 2026 World Cup in North America. We'll have all these stories and more just before 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. If you're driving northern parts of Pretoria, truck jackknifing early hours this morning. Steve Beaker around Vanderboom South area, you probably will be diverted. So there's already some heavy pressure on Lavender Road moving through Steve Beaker, through the port and down towards the junction area. So that's going to be a busy one. On top of that, some load shedding through that whole Onderstepoort, Vanderboom and Anlin region. Load shedding extending into Montana as well this morning. Joburg's load shedding, Florida, Maresburg offline, Joburg CBD, Braamfontein out and Sandton off until 8 o'clock as well this morning. The closer we get to 8, the heavier that traffic coming in on multiple routes into Sandton will be. The other situation we're watching this morning is a very misty start to proceedings in Cape Town. It's not everywhere, but there are pockets of very heavy mist and poor visibility. So slow down and lights on in those affected areas. I'm Rob Byrne. SAFM Sunrise starts now.
SAFM Sunrise, a vivid start to your day.
7 minutes after 6. Good morning. Welcome to Friday. Welcome to SFM. Welcome to SFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Where were you yesterday when the Australians hit that last 4 and took themselves into the World Cup, the Cricket World Cup semi-final, and we sort of took our hats off and trudged in the other direction? And it was just one of those games at the very beginning as we were batting and we were down and Zai was, we were 44 for 4. I was like, oh my word. And just, you sort of almost want to look away. And then suddenly David Miller comes on, scores a century, doof, 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 just like that. And then suddenly there's momentum, things are going. And then suddenly, Australia batting, and actually in real trouble at one point, I thought. We were just a couple of balls away, maybe from taking it, And suddenly, it was one of those games. And I remember, I sort of grew up with cricket. I never played it myself. I went to a couple of practices, was pretty terrible. Still am, my son tells me. But, you sort of think of, I can sort of almost tell you where I was for most of these sort of big World Cup matches. I remember where I was in 1992. And that terrible moment when Australia suddenly didn't need to score any runs. And I think it was a guy called Merrick Pringle. Is that the guy's name? Maybe it was someone else who was sort of batting and just sort of put his bat down and sort of walked away, just so sort of disappointed. I think Brian McMillan played a role there. There was a tour to India at the time. I remember that so clearly. And the names, people you hadn't really heard of before. There was Jonty and Kepler and Fani. And everyone sort of, was just known by their first name. And in fact, in 1995, and I know I'm aging myself now, second year university, messing around in radio, my hair was a lot longer than it is now. And I got to interview Fani de Villiers. It was very exciting at the time. Things have changed, of course, a lot since then. And then there was, and I remember the bridge I was walking over in London with my earphones in, listening to FM radio with the Alan Donald run out. And how it just was so difficult to sort of explain what on earth happened. But I remember it so clearly. And I remember Sean Pollock and his sons. Sorry, Sean, to bring it up. In 2003. Remember that? We hosted that World Cup. I remember actually, I was lucky enough to go to the final. Of course, we weren't in it, but I remember Sean Pollock sort of getting his sums wrong. There was the loss to New Zealand in 2015. And then, of course, 2019, we didn't really feature, I suppose. And then there was, and I was just reminded of how important it had all been. And yesterday reminded me of that. And my sort of point, and I suppose I'm slowly getting there, is that it just sort of reminded me of how much fun cricket can be, really. I mean, just how much fun it can be. In a way that rugby and football aren't. They're very different sort of games, and it's the kind of over thing. But I was just reminded of that. I don't know if it brought back memories for you, just suddenly being interested again after a long period, and after a difficult set of times in our sort of cricket team. So anyway, just a sort of, a reminder of cricket and what it can be. Anyway, that was my memory. And when we, sort of hear your story of the week later, maybe you might want to sort of bring up your cricket memories as well, of what you remember and what you don't. My son still, actually, will go and watch, they're available on YouTube, the highlights of the 4-3-8 game from time to time, when everyone's a bit grumpy. Sort of go and watch the half-hour version. Everyone cheers up quite quickly. I was yesterday, and I think in a way, Gift of the Givers is an organisation almost uniquely among South Africans that I think is sort of universally respected and appreciated, and just sort of universally sort of liked. And I think that's because of the work they do. And so when they lost someone yesterday, Ahmed Abbasi, their head in Gaza, I think it just reminded us of the situation in Gaza. I think it just took us there somehow. Even though, I don't think I'd ever spoken to Ahmed. I was thinking of his family. His brother was also killed yesterday. And of course, that took us straight into the debate in Parliament about whether or not we should sort of remove the Israeli embassy, cut diplomatic ties with them. And it's an EFF motion. The ANC says it agrees, but with amendments. The question then comes, will the EFF sort of support the amendments? Many other parties, the DA, the Freedom Front Plus, the IFP, many being quite critical of Israel, but also just saying, that they don't think that it would be constructive to sort of cut these diplomatic ties. There are lots of arguments around it, and we'll hear some of them a little while later. Freedom Front Plus actually raised something which I hadn't even thought of, which is that we have 6 diplomats that represent us with the Palestinians in Palestine, and they're actually based in Jerusalem. They'll have to move to Ramallah, as I understand it, if this were to happen. Some of the stuff can be a little bit complicated. And then, of course, Israel still this morning, their soldiers in the Al-Shifa hospital, the US still refusing to call for a ceasefire there. We'll update you on all of that as we sort of go. These miners, I don't know where suddenly miners are sort of involved in sit-ins underground. I don't know if it's a new tactic. I don't know if there's something else going on. I don't know if it's AMCU, but this was in the Blayfour mine yesterday. 800 mine workers had refused to come up. They finally did. And there's a union we've never actually spoken to called the Blayfour Workers Union. They apparently have a sort of closed shop agreement there. I don't know if you maybe belong to the Blayfour Workers Union. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about it and just sort of the kind of work that they do. I thought that was interesting. And then some stuff going on in local government at the moment. Nelson Mandela Bay has finally sort of voted to have a multi-party committee to investigate claims of fraud against the mayor, Gary van Niekerk. He's from the party The Northern Alliance. News 24 is reporting this morning that the African Independence Congress councillor Margaret Arnolds could be the new speaker in Joburg. Of course, Colleen Makobele is out there. And there'll be a vote, and it's actually quite difficult for the council of Joburg to meet at the moment because they don't have a place to meet. And they don't have a place to meet because the big building in Joburg where they used to meet has been declared unsafe because it's a fire hazard. And this issue of infrastructure, more and more, I'm telling you, is going to be a big story. It's going to be something that we really need to worry about. And then we'll speak to them in a little while, but Action SA seem to be seriously suggesting that the Council of eThekwini, the Metro of eThekwini, should be renamed after Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. And I almost wonder, are you trying to cause trouble? I mean, is that what you're trying to do? It seems to me maybe you are. Maybe trying to put a little bit of pressure on the sort of ANC and the IFP relationship, which could be a bit of a dangerous thing to do, not necessarily sensible. We will ask that, and be my first question to the Action SA KZN leaders, Wakile Mkwango. You're trying to cause trouble? Because I think maybe they are. I don't know. And I mean, there's a conversation that we've had from time to time about naming places after people. So Durban is named after a person. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be named after that person, certainly. But naming places after people, I don't know how I feel about it. And then also names change, I mean, they sort of, and the meanings that they have change. So I don't know. I mean, is Joburg or is it Jozi? Is it something else? Street names. Who decides street names? Actually, I tell you who decides street names. Radio traffic announcers do. They're the ones who decide what things are actually going to be called. You can have as many political hearings as you like. They're the ones who decide. This is a really interesting conversation, and it does matter. And we need to sort of consider it quite carefully, I think. The number 086 000 2032. I don't know if you've got a view on what the name of eThekwini should be. Maybe we should keep it eThekwini. As far as if I've worked it out properly, I don't think we have any metros actually named after people at the moment. Also, the situation with the Middle East, the situation with the cricket, your memories of the cricket, please, on 086 000 2032. And just cricket memories down the years. You can SMS 41391, tweet SFM Radio and at Stephen Curtis. Send your WhatsApp voice notes to 0614 104 107. Good morning, 16 after 6.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Leander, good morning.
Stephen, are you good?
I'm well, thank you. So you got your cricket match in the end yesterday.
You know what? On the advice of my handler, I was told after losing 4 wickets that perhaps this is not the best course of action. We should go do other things.
Yes.
So off we went because I just knew that this was a lost cause.
Yeah.
When I came back, of course, my blood pressure was once again up there, but it wasn't to be. It wasn't to be.
No, it was nice and close at the end in a way.
It was. I just admired the fight at the end, but I just thought the batsmen didn't fight hard enough.
And I know there'll be endless questions around Temba Bavuma and should he have played and all the rest. These are quite difficult. But
you can't in such a crunch match, you leave with a 0. Come on. I mean, there will be questions there, Stephen, definitely. And you just said you don't know if there's a municipality that is named after
a metro.
A metro.
Yeah.
The Nelson Mandela Bay, remember?
Oh, those mornings where you're like, okay, I'm just out for a duck.
Yeah, most definitely.
Thank you.
Stephen,
I think the word you're looking for is doff.
Nah, we didn't go that far, Stephen. This morning we're looking at 65 accused back in the Durban Magistrates Court on charges related to the July 2021 unrest. Now, during the unrest, you would know, Stephen, that more than 350 people were killed, and of course, damage amounting to billions and billions of rand was caused. And at the last appearance, the state said it intended adding terrorism charges to the charges that the 65 are facing. I don't know, man.
Yeah. A terrorism charge is always going to lead to other things, and absolutely. I think it raises the stakes a bit.
Absolutely, Stephen. And of course, we've got Rosemary Ndlovu 2.0.
Yes, I see so.
Yes, a woman arrested on suspicion that she murdered her relatives to benefit from insurance claims will be appearing in court today. Now, the 49-year-old suspect was linked through analysis and collection of evidence, including the exhumation of a body. So it goes, and you'd be interested to know that Sergeant Keshi Mabunda is actually handling that case.
It's the same cop, right?
Same cop,
yeah.
Yes. So it should be fun. To just find out what happened there, Stephen. And still in court, Stephen, former SAA board chairperson Dudumieni and Sondolo IT director Trevor Matenjwa appearing in the Richards Bay Magistrates Court today. They've been charged with fraud and corruption related to payments of 300,000 rand from Bosasa and its subsidiary, which is Sondolo IT. Yeah. Another one of those.
Yes, so many of those.
Most definitely. Stephen, and also we keep an eye on that sit-in by some. Well, the number was 300, and then someone else said it's 500, and then it's 800 at the Playfor Gold Mine in Carltonville, and of course workers are still unhappy that the mining company would not be able to pay them their 13th check and other allowances. Of course, it's that type of economy.
Yeah, no, very difficult at the moment, but also people rely on the 13th check. They've already spent it in a way.
Of course, you spend it in your head before it even comes. And finally, Stephen, Melinda Gates will deliver the 13th Desmond Tutu International Peace Lecture at the Cape Town International Convention Centre. The lecture will also serve as a tribute to Mama Lia Tutu's 90th birthday, which is happening, I think, this evening in Cape Town. So that's what we'll be having for you, Stephen.
Leander, we'll be listening ball by ball on the radio. Thank you very much. 19 minutes after 6.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
Let's have a look at your weather around the country this morning. Tshwane partly cloudy with scattered thunder showers, 18 and 30. Johannesburg partly cloudy, scattered thunder showers, 16 and 26. Vereeniging partly cloudy, scattered thunder showers, 18 and 28. Bombela partly cloudy, scattered thunder showers, 17 and 26. Polokwane partly cloudy, 14 and 28. Mahakeng partly cloudy, scattered showers, thunder showers, 20 and 30. Vryburg partly cloudy, scattered showers, thunder showers, 18 and 31. Mangaung partly cloudy, scattered showers, thunder showers, 16 and 29. Kimberley partly cloudy, isolated showers and thunder showers, 18 and 34. Uppington partly cloudy, 22 and 36. Cape Town cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy, a light westerly wind, 16 and 22. George, fog patches in the early morning, otherwise partly cloudy, clearing in the evening, a light and variable wind, 15 and 24. Gqeberha fine, becoming partly cloudy, isolated afternoon thunder showers, a light easterly wind, 18 and 25. East London fine, becoming partly cloudy, scattered afternoon thunder showers, a light and variable wind, 18 and 27. Taquini, partly cloudy, isolated showers and thunder showers, a moderate northeasterly wind, 18 and 29. Richards Bay partly cloudy, isolated showers, thunder showers, a moderate to fresh northeasterly wind, 20 and 33. And Pietermaritzburg partly cloudy, scattered showers and thunder showers, 14 and 32.
Ford is turning 100, and there's never been a better time to buy a brand new Ford. We're giving away 100 vouchers worth an amazing 50,000 Rand each, and the sensational grand prize of us paying for one lucky winner's Ford. It's the celebration of the century. Visit a Ford dealer, buy a new Ford, and win. T&Cs apply.
Eskom understands that electricity is an integral part of running a business. However, electricity demand is currently higher than supply, and energy efficiency is critical. Businesses are encouraged to reduce consumption between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. by not leaving electrical equipment on standby mode, as well as turning off unnecessary lighting. We can reduce load shedding by working together. Every kilowatt counts.
28 years ago, two great outfits of global rugby met in the Rugby World Cup final.
The Springboks and the All Blacks.
The Boks had a good day in the office in 1995 and lifted the Webb Ellis Cup on home soil. Amabokoboko have silenced the All Blacks once again.
At the Rugby World Cup final, France 2023, in search of their fourth title. Hala la Zanzi Africa.
Back-to-back victors and four-time champions of the Rugby World Cup.
An extra seat has been booked for a flight back to Africa Tonga for the Webb Ellis Cup to travel with the world's best rugby national team. Amabokoboko. Congratulations to the Springboks.
Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
23 minutes after 6 the time. Good morning to you. Well, the Chinese President Xi Jinping and the US President Joe Biden have now reached several agreements that will see China cracking down on the production of the drug fentanyl by its companies and the restoration of regular direct communication between its military and the US military. In other words, as I understand it, during a time of crisis, there'll be a sort of hotline between the US and China, like there was between the US and Russia during the Cold War. Chinese media also reporting that at the end of the meeting in San Francisco, Biden personally walked Xi to his car to say goodbye. Gideon Chitunga is a research associate at the African Center for the Study of the United States. Gideon, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. We've seen a period of tension between the US and China over various issues. Has this summit gone some way to resolving some of that?
I think in the context of the meeting that happened, it felt like there was a lot of a warm ambience between the two leaders of the two biggest powers in the world. The outcome of their discussions is announced by the media in both the US and what emerged from China. It shows that they actually made a lot of ground. The issue is that there were too many issues where the US and China really have their differences, some of which you mentioned. A lot of others will need to the key leaders of these countries to continue to work on. But what is important is that the communication lines are open, and the two leaders in their administrations will continue to engage on critical issues, not only of bilateral concern, but of global concern. And I think that in its own is a major achievement.
So, I mean, obviously, you can't, whether you're China or the US, say no to direct contact, right? You just look bad. It looks like you're not serious about reducing tension. I would imagine both of these countries, both of these leaders, Xi and Biden, actually have a very strong reason to reduce the tension between them. They both want to look, like statesmen.
Just not just looking like a statesman. I think that every leader at some point is judged by how they respond to the challenges of their time. And critically, what we can read is that there is an awareness from these two very important leaders whose role is so important globally, that they have their national domestic concern and international concerns. And it's crucial for them to have lines of communication flowing. And as President Xi Jinping said, for China, it's key that the US does not wrongly take hostile decisions, but view the country as a partner and a friend. And I suppose that that is very key, because quite often there's a sense that when you look at international Western media, particularly China, is misunderstood. And I think that's what China would have wanted to address, that anything that happens policy-wise or decision-wise, either in the US or other Western countries, at least it should be well-informed, well-founded, and not based on wrong or some kind of wrong information or some kind of misunderstanding. For the US, that is also important, because Biden is concerned about reducing or avoiding potential conflict, violent conflict, that is. Although competition might happen, but this competition must be managed, and the conduct and diplomacy is key to manage any serious friction that might inflame violent conflict between the two countries.
Gideon Chitanga, thank you very much indeed. Do appreciate the time. Research Associate at the African Centre for the Study of the United States. 27 minutes after 6.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. Such a long tradition. Alan Donald in 99, Sean Pollock and the Sums in 2003. We can just go on and on.
Heartbreak. That's what it feels like. But you know what? The Proteas head coach insisting his team did not, and we'll use that word again, choke, after South Africa crashed out in the semi-finals of the Cricket World Cup. And it was a hard-fought defeat to Australia in Kolkata last night, needing 213 runs to win. Their last four clash, Australia reached 215 for 7, securing a 3-wicket victory with 16 balls to spare. Let's listen now to the head coach, Rob Walter.
For me, a choke is losing a game that you're in a position to win. In this instance, we were behind the 8 ball right from the word go, and we actually fought our way back into the competition and put up a score that gave us a chance. And then again they got off to a flyer, and we fought and we put ourselves back into the game, and of course we were 30 runs or 40 runs short, but still having them 7 down, and a couple of things that balls bouncing just short, a little inside edge that could have been taken, so for me there's nothing even remotely close to a choke that happened out there today.
Soccer now, Bafana coach Hugo Broos has set his sights on helping his side qualify for the World Cup for the first time in 21 years. The South African men's national team begin their 2026 World Cup qualifying campaign with clashes against Benin and Rwanda in the next 2 weeks and are looking to make a positive start. Now, Broos has led Bafana to an 11-game unbeaten run in all competitions, one that began in June last year. He will lead Bafana to the 2024 Africa Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast in January having beaten the number 1 ranked nation on the continent in Morocco. Now, Nigeria under pressure in Group C of the 2026 World Cup qualifying. They were held to a 1-0 draw by Lesotho at the Godswill Akbayo International Stadium last night. Bafana now have a chance to set the pace in that group when they face Benin in Durban come Saturday, with Rwanda and Zimbabwe having played out to a 0-0 draw in Butare. Soccer now, Kaizer Chiefs legend and club chairman as well as owner Kaizer Matong, as well as a generation of fan favourites including Jabu Pule and Cyril Nzama, converged at the Hall of Fame at the FNB Stadium yesterday to celebrate Matong after he was inducted into the SA Hall of Fame. He will join a prestigious list of inductees from the former late president and international icon Nelson Mandela, Archbishop Desmond Tutu and golf legend Gary Player. Matong has thanked the former players and club legends for the contribution they made to the success of the club.
If it wasn't for what all these players who you see today and some of the founding fathers who are no longer with us, if it wasn't for them, I don't think we'd be here today. So it's all about the whole journey that we undertook since 1970 to be where we are today. So we thank all of them. I would like to, I think words won't suffice to say what I want to say in terms of how I thank these people, because each and every one of them who has been part of this journey has made a contribution to the communities. So we hope that the legacy will continue to live on.
That's Kaizer Chief legend Kaizer Matong on Sunrise. We'll bring you more headlines top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thank you very much indeed. Good morning to you. Friday morning. We'll talk about eThekwini. Should it be renamed? Should it be named after Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi? That coming up next. You're with SFM leading the conversation. It's stage 3 now, stage 1 and stage 2 over the weekend, 6:30.
Thank you, Stephen. In your headlines, EFF leader Julius Malema has made a global call for the boycott, disinvestment and the implementing of sanctions against Israel. He was speaking during a debate sponsored by his party in the National Assembly. A woman arrested on suspicion that she murdered her relatives to benefit from insurance claims will be appearing in court today. The 49-year-old suspect was linked through analysis and collection of evidence, including the exhumation of a body. And bulk potable water provider Umgeni Uthukela Water has postponed the 18-hour water shutdown that was scheduled to start at the Durban Heights water plant today. This was meant for maintenance and repairs. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Quite busy around northern parts of Pretoria. Jackknife truck closing down. Steve Biko heading down through the pass area. It's putting a lot of pressure down through Vanderboom Junction, if you like. Lavender being diverted onto Mayville, Paul Kruger and Mansfield. So very heavy around that Vanderboom Junction area. So all that volume diverts and complicating matters. Load shedding warning through Vanderboom onto Support Anlin and extending out into Montana. And there's some real delays that side as well. Sofaka Makato and Maloto roads looking very busy. Also Pretoria West getting a dose of load shedding. Monument Park and Erasmus Kloof as well, and they're very busy areas when when you get load shedding at peak hour. Now, if you're on your way from Pretoria to the airport, there's a crash before Olifantsfontein Road, so just after St George's Hotel, it all gets a bit busy. The Mike 1 queuing coming up from Uncle Charlie's in towards sort of the Ormonde Xavier Street exit. Looks like something's broken down or crashed there. Durban having a pretty good start this morning. The M4 though, the Ruthfirst Highway, a little bit slow around Broadway, around Durban North exit, so we'll watch that one. Cape Town misty conditions this morning. Take it easy if it's misty where you are. It is quite widespread. And Mitchell's playing with some load shedding. So M7, R300 heading out both of those routes, jamming towards Samora, Michelle and Philippi. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
At SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes on Twitter.
Hey, good morning. Looks like we might have a problem with the business update for you this morning. We'll try and resolve that for you. Sorry about that. Plenty to come. We'll take your calls about the cricket, your thoughts about it all. I don't know how you're thinking. Also, Temba Bavuma. I know difficult time for him, I suspect. Often is. And, throughout the history of cricket, there are questions around captains and should they play and things like that from time to time. So we'll look at that issue. Also, this issue of eThekwini. Should it be renamed? Your calls, please. 086 000 2032.
Africa Update on SAFM Sunrise, a continental overview of current African affairs.
Russ Advocate Sipho Mansula, good morning.
Steve, refreshing morning and Jumbo Africa to the listener.
In Madagascar, so they finally had the first round, very contested presidential election. The counting's underway. How did it go?
Stephen, the counting is underway, and if I can tell you, a decade ago when I was there, Stephen, the counting is done in a very strange way. The electorate participate in the counting, not electoral officials. But let's look at the turnout, Stephen. It will appear that from the information we get from the media from that side, observers, it was a low turnout, Stephen. They are saying almost 20% of people turn out for those elections in the island of Madagascar. Remember that we have 12 opposition candidates who call for citizens to stay away from the voting stations. So we will wait and see what will happen with the outcome of the elections in Madagascar. We are expecting those results a week from now.
And then this very interesting story about Kenya sending police officers to Haiti. It's part of a UN mission. How's that going?
Even finally, the Parliament gave it a thumbs up. Remember this week when we could not collect on Monday, there was a challenge that the government of Kenya did not want to send their police because of the UN has not given them enough support, financial support, to go to Haiti to tackle what we will call the gang violence in the island of Haiti. Now, yesterday, the Parliament gave it a thumbs up, and we are talking about more than 1,000 police officers who will leave Kenya to go to Haiti and assist. And this is a UN mission, by the way, Stephen, because Haiti has been going to the UN lamenting about this challenge that they are having of gang violence, the gang raids that are happening, and the killings that are happening in the island of Haiti. We are talking about 200,000 people who have left their homes due to this violence.
In Mozambique, obviously the situation in Cabo Delgado, the president there, he says defense and security forces must stay focused.
Stephen, they must stay focused. He was in the southern city of Mozambique at the province of the Matola, talking to the senior officers in the military and saying that they have to be focused in the question of dealing with the terrorists in Cabo Delgado. We have not been touching on it, Stephen, and we know that we have a SADC mission in Cabo Delgado, but President Nyusi coming out very clear to the generals that they need to deal with the terrorist groups in the northern part of Mozambique, Cabo Delgado.
And then in Malawi, the president, Lazarus Chakwera, suspending foreign flights for government officials. This is all about money.
Stephen, it is all about money. Even his own trip as a president will also be under monitoring whether he will have to fly. And remember, they have to fly now, end of this month, to COP28, but they have cancelled all those trips for his members of cabinet. And you know the language, Stephen, in the government, they use the word austerity measures. But others are still traveling, Stephen, even if we have this so-called austerity measures. But Malawi, the president came out very clear that ministers, secretaries, directors, and all members of senior management in government were not allowed to fly outside the country due to this that is in Malawi.
And then you're taking us back to this day, 17th of November, 1989.
Stephen, this was part of the TRC file, by the way, on this day, and it's for our listeners in Western Cape that on this day, an ANC member of Umkhonto Wesizwe, Bonteville military wing, Anthony France, was murdered on this day in 1989 in a house in Athlone. Stephen, they say it was a 6-hour gun battle between the security forces of the then apartheid regime with Anthony. If you want to read more about this guy, Stephen, it is in the TRC final report of volume 2 of 1998. Asante Sana. That's what's still leading the conversation, SAFM.
Ras Advocate Sipho Mantulap, thank you so much. To appreciate it. Sipho, of course, back with us on Monday. More news from our continent through the day here on SAFM. 22 minutes now to 7.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Well, there's been a lot of conversations this week around taverns, and I suppose part of it started when the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi posted a picture of himself on X or Twitter, and basically it was a big sort of Heineken-branded tavern. He said the tavern of the future in townships will be very different, and that started a huge response. Maxwell in Swane, hi, good morning.
Good morning, Steve Ovo, and thanks for taking my call.
Sure, go for it.
What a disgrace, Stephen.
Oh, really? Yes, why?
Because why are you taking the taverns to the township instead of the suburban? Why the township has to bear the issue of alcoholism? We all know that it all starts with alcohol, Stephen. I'm still on.
Yes, you're still on, Maxwell?
Yes, Stephen, because Why those advertising and everything is not in suburbs, but it has to go to the township? What kind of message are we sending to our communities? We're building a drunken society. At the end of the day, who are we going to blame? We're only seeing the visibility of the tavern. Panyaza Al-Sufu promised that those things will promote jobs or will initiate jobs. We've never seen anybody who's involved on those taverns. We've only seen him, Panyaza, and the boss of Hanneken and the building. Where are the promise of jobs that is going to be created? I think we need. I understand it's electioneering, Stevens, but this kind of message is very dangerous to our society.
Yeah, Maxwell. Look, I mean, you get taverns and you get pubs and bars. I think everywhere. You see them in suburbs too, obviously, and lots of branding, and you see the billboards everywhere. I think, Maxwell, there's a bigger conversation. I mean, I think you can allow an alcohol industry, but not promote it, and maybe that's the difference. That Lesotho can allow it, but not promote it.
Yeah, not promote it, but where you station it at, people are vulnerable, Steve. A lot of people, they've got different stress and so on. The minute you see this shop next to you, you'll try to get one so that you relieve something. It will be a daily occurrence. We know what alcohol has done to this country and the youth, Steve. We cannot justify it.
Yeah. All right, Maxwell and Tshwane, I hear you. I mean, it's interesting to sort of have these arguments, and I think they're very important to have these conversations. I can also understand a government that would say, look, we need to promote business, etc., etc., etc. And then I suppose also, if you're going to have taverns in townships and a big company wants to make it really a bar, make it good, improve things. There's the right word I'm looking for. Would you stop that? I don't know. Would you promote that? I don't know. There's actually very interesting conversations you can have in all sorts of different directions around it. I do think, though, and we've had so many conversations about it, I do think we need to have a bigger conversation around the role of alcohol in our society. 19 minutes to 7.
It's about a little more than just an X on that ballot paper. It's about SouthGov knowing what I want, where I'm going, and who I want to take with on this journey. To me, it's not just a vote. It's my democracy. I own it. So show up and register for what you stand for. From Giyani to Umlazi, Pitori to Matatiele. Bring your green bar-coded ID, smart card or temporary ID certificate. Stations open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 18 to 19 November 2023. Or register online by going to elections.org.za or call 0800 11 8000. It's your democracy. Own it. Brought to you by the IEC.
Mzansi, we thank you for what you did yesterday, today, and what you will do tomorrow to meet your tax obligations. By submitting your income tax returns on time and keeping your personal and banking information up to date, you have made your tax matters daily matters. Our gratitude as SARS is immeasurable. We thank you for contributing to our country's prosperity. Visit sars.gov.za to keep your details updated. Your tax matters. SARS at your service.
Buying a new TV? You'll need a paid-up TV license. Need to check your balance? No sweat at all. You just SMS your ID or TV license account number to 44210 for fast, effective balance inquiries. Secure your legal viewing, fast and simple. Standard SMS rates will be charged. Terms and conditions apply. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
SAFM 104 to 107. Nationwide.
17 minutes to 7 the time. Your memories, your thoughts on the cricket, please. 086 000 2032. I don't know, should Temba Bavuma have played yesterday? I mean, I like Temba Bavuma. I think he shows the most amazing leadership in difficult times. But should he have played? I think there's an important question there. The chair of Action SA in KwaZulu-Natal and the province's premier candidate, the party's premier candidate in KZN for next year's elections, Zwakele Mqwango, now suggesting that the city of eThekwini, the metro, should be renamed after the former leader of the IFP, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. You know, of course, of the long and very difficult history between the IFP and the ANC. The ANC still has the highest proportion of votes in eThekwini. Well, Zwakele Mqwango on the line for you now. Zwakele, good morning.
Morning to you, Stephen. Morning to you, listeners of SAFM.
What are you doing here? You're trying to cause trouble.
No, actually, we are trying to bring unity. You know, our province, Stephen, come a long way with violence and tensions between the two rivals. And as Action SA, we believe that honoring Ushenge for the work he has done for this province, which is undisputed, the fact that even the president honored Ushenge with the state funeral category 1, and almost all parties were united in one voice about his contribution to this province. Not even one party or any individual was disputing what Usheng have done for this province. So we strongly believe that in a spirit of reconciliation in our province, we have only one metro in the province. So what we are proposing is that there should be a motion in Council. We need to look at it, but also we need to obviously consult with the public and the ratepayers of Ethekwini to hear their views about the proposal. What we are not suggesting is this arrogant, it's normally done by the ANC to impose changes without consultation. So we are proposing actually to say, look, let's begin the consultation. Let's hear what people are saying. Let's see whether budget-wise, how much going to cost. But we know renaming the municipality can't be like the straight renaming where there's a lot of changes. You don't change addresses, just change of name and logo probably. But what we are saying is let's look at the cost and budget towards renaming. But we do believe that, honestly, in KZN, with only one metro, it's fitting to honor Ushenge for the contribution he made for this province, especially in the main, protecting our land under Ngonyama Trust, the role he played during difficult times for this province. And I think the results are out there.
So Action SA, which believes in a free market economy, but you also support the trust. You support the way that communal land is managed in KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes. So far, we have protected our land. Remember, I think it's about understanding how this land is utilized. But end of the day, there might be challenges with there and there with the act itself, but it was able to protect the land for the people of KwaZulu-Natal. So we do believe that it was proper and fit at that time to find ways of protecting our land in KZN.
I look forward to asking Herman Mashaba this question. So Prince Buthelezi, okay, no one can deny that he's played a big role. There are many people who believe that they and their families are the victims of his actions. In fact, SABC News spoke to some of them in Boipatong and realized that's in Gauteng. But some of the people who will say that they are his victims, that they lost people as a result of his actions, this will be their view, will be living in Ethekwini. Would it really be right to say, no matter what kind of public consultation that you had, that people who had their lives changed by what they believe were the actions of this one person should now have to live in a city that would bear his name? To put it another way, Zwakele, isn't it just too soon?
Wasn't it too soon for Mandela to name Mandela Bay?
You're really going to compare the two historical legacies?
Yeah.
Be careful.
No, exact, Stephen. They all have history. They all have their history. There are so many families who will have their negative history about Mandela with Winnie Mandela. We just had in Johannesburg, there was a renaming of a street with Winnie Mandela. There are so many views about Winnie Mandela. But bottom line is, we have to look at what individuals have done for this country. Yes, no one is perfect. I'm also not perfect. You're not perfect even yourself. So we all have our own history.
So, Kelly, no one is ever going to suggest naming a place after me. I don't know what will happen with your legacy. Here's my point, though, is that isn't it just too soon? You say no one's perfect. It's got to be better than that. I mean, we've got to have a better argument for naming a place after a person. I think the argument must still hold. Should people and I mean, there'll be many people in that region who will think, I'm a victim of Buthelez's actions. This is just an incredibly divisive point. And isn't that really why you're doing it? You want to put pressure on the relationship between the ANC and the IFP?
No, it's not put pressure. It's actually trying to honor. When the prince died or passed on, actually almost all parties spoke in one voice, even the ANC, about his contribution. There was a prayer arranged by the ANC at Kwapindangene, honoring Ushenge, honoring and remembering what he has done for this province. So I don't understand why anyone will start to believe that it is dividing. In fact, by honoring Ushenge, it's uniting. He's a father figure of this province. I don't even think of anyone in this province who can be really ranked higher than Ushenge for this province. Maybe someone who's outside KZN will never understand. But when you look at KwaZulu-Natal, I can tell you right now, when you look at the history, the only province with the, where government at that time was able to have a university arranged or managed by a black leader was Umntwana Phindangene, who was able to look for funds to build Mangosuthu University to allow black students to access a university. When there was a struggle for black people in KwaZulu-Natal to access finances to build houses, he was able to assist and make sure that there is Itala Bank, which was able to help people to build houses in townships. So there are so many things Usheng have done for this province, and we strongly believe that it's fitting to honor him as such.
Zwakele Mqango, thank you. Provincial Chair of Action SA in KwaZulu-Natal.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
Well, news reports over the last little while, over the last 12 hours, coming from News 24, suggesting that Margaret Arnold, who is a councillor, leader of the minority parties and with the AIC in the city of Johannesburg, has been selected by a caucus meeting of these parties to be the new Speaker of Joburg. She joins us now. Councillor Arnold, good morning, and thank you for agreeing to speak to us at short notice. Is this true? Are you going to be the next Speaker in Joburg?
Well, that would be determined by the council and councillors inside of council on Monday.
Has there been an in-principle decision to nominate you?
Yes, they have.
Okay, and I presume that would get the support of the ANC and the EFF in Joburg?
Well, it would have the support of the government of local unity, not per se the ANC and the EFF, but the government of local unity, which comprises of more than just the EFF and the ANC.
Sure, but I mean, they're the bigger parties, which is why I use them to refer to it. Okay, I mean, we know, and if you look around Joburg at the moment, Councillor, you can see the problems that the city is facing. Many people blame the current administration, many blame the previous administration, we can decide, by which I mean the previous coalition arrangements. As Speaker, what would you try and do in Joburg? I mean, the council can't even meet in the council chamber at the moment.
Well, I think I'm not going to come out and make promises and say I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and then you as the media and the residents of the city of Johannesburg would hold me accountable for saying I'm going to ensure that this gets done and that gets done. But I think my role would be to make certain that service delivery from the executive happens, and that the legislature does what the legislature has to do, and also that the city has stability, which I think is coming on really good. It currently we do have stability somehow or the other, but I also believe that my role would also be to ensure that there's stability in the city and that people have confidence in the government of the day.
Councillor Margaret Arnold, thank you for agreeing to speak to us at short notice. A confirmation there, in principle, decision to nominate her as Speaker of Joburg. She's currently the caucus leader of the African Independence Congress and chair of the group of minority parties, the minority opposition in the city of Joburg. 7 minutes to 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a reminder, Pretoria North very heavily back this morning, particularly Lavender Road coming down towards the Vanderbilt Port area. It was earlier a problem with the jackknife truck, which had closed Steve Biko down through Vanderbilt Pass, but it appears as though that road may have reopened. So the big backlogs you're sitting on in Lavender onto Paul Kruger should ease, but there is some load shedding around Ondas to Port, Anlin, Vanderbilt, and across to Montana. So there's a lot of traffic delays around that as well. Monument Park and Erasmus Kloof also being load shed this morning. So watch for traffic building on on routes like Solomon, Mshlangu and the R21. Now, the R21 heading to the airport is heavily backed up. There was a crash before you get to Olifantsfontein, but it may be something else. It's a very heavy queue. If you're coming out of Pretoria towards the airport, make sure you've got plenty of time just to get through that. It's sort of queuing from St. George's Hotel territory all the way to a point just before Olifantsfontein. If you're leaving Mshlangu on your way to Durban, you might want to avoid the M4 this morning, the Ruth First Highway. Going to be asked to sit in traffic from almost the M41 right down to Broadway. Take Mshlangu Rocks Drive. It's going to get you through quicker. Looks like possibly load shedding, backing up the M25, Komashu Highway. That's heavy, coming out of Komashu down towards the N2 Highway. Cape Town, Mitchell's Plain, undergoing some load shedding as well. So the R300 M7 options out towards Samora Michelle, very busy. The AZ Berman run up to the R300, slow go as well. And Cape Town, we always keep an eye on Tableview these days because of the roadworks on Bloberg Road at the refinery. That's already slow. And Marine Drive, busy coming off the West Coast Road, passing Bayside Junction, which is congested to Dolphin Beach Hotel. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM 104 to 107. Nationwide.
5 minutes to 7. Good morning. Over the last week, lots of conversations around the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo and his comments that appear to directly tie former President Jacob Zuma and the Guptas to state capture. Then again on Wednesday, he said both Parliament and the ANC are to blame for the possibility state capture could happen again because the majority party does not allow its members to support a vote of no confidence against its leaders in Parliament. Dr. Ngamram Timka is a political analyst based at Nelson Mandela University. Dr. Timka, good morning and thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning, Stephen, and your listeners. Thank you for having me.
So the Chief Justice is clearly worried. He seems to be worried that state capture could happen again. Is he right to be worried?
Well, first of all, Stephen, I think that the Chief Justice is rightly anxious about the likelihood of the failure to implement his report. Personally, he received a lot of attacks for the costs of the commission and its results in terms of prosecutions. So the follow through that he has had, is legitimate, and I think that those concerns are also valid concerns. The question is, would you rather have your Chief Justice do political commentary in ways that trigger anxiety even among supportive stakeholders, or would you leave that to continue to be done by people who are watchdogs over the political system? Remember that the judicial system are the final arbiters of disputes. If they are seen to be part of processes or the debates, that affects perceptions about the extent to which they can be seen to remain impartial should those disputes end up in courts.
So are you suggesting that maybe he has gone too far?
I'm anxious. I'm anxious, Stephen. I'm torn between what is permissible in terms of follow through for a a chair of a commission of inquiries that did tremendous work, and the obligations that come with the office of the Chief Justice. And I think that erring on the side of caution is best in this regard, especially, for example, public commentary is very risky in the sense that at the spur of the moment, you get asked questions which sometimes actually go beyond what you would have preferred to talk about. And this Jacob Zuma issue, for example, a corruption case, is a case in point, which triggered the interest even of a supportive stakeholder like CASAC.
There are other things to this. I mean, I wonder if the Chief Justice... And I realize we don't really see our judges as sort of human, but we all sort of watched him, during the commission. And I wonder if maybe he's worried that the other parts, you mentioned the media and other organizations that are supposed to sort of keep people accountable, maybe aren't. And he's so worried that he's actually blowing the whistle as loudly as he can.
Yes. So I think there's a measure to which that is important. So I made a comment recently that maybe we should not, for politically charged inquiries, maybe sitting judges may not be the best positioned to actually chair those, especially if they sit in the apex court of the land, because by its nature, if you are a passionate patriot, you're going to want to have follow through, and sometimes it may not bode well for perceptions about the institution. Remember, Stephen, that the detractors of our constitutional order are people who master the art of casting aspersions on things and do not need things to be a particular way in order for them to label them as such. So they should not be aided by things that come too close to the grey, in my view.
It would seem to me that this is likely to play out over quite a long time. We see the Chief Justice. I mean, I sort of wonder if maybe some of his predecessors could speak out a little more and help him, but I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea or not.
My view is that the Chief Justice should focus for a considerable amount of time on talking about what is happening at the level of the judiciary, performance information around handling of cases, efficiencies that are being introduced in the court systems for the longest period of time to try and wean himself from this executive conduct around the issue of state capture, because it puts him on a back foot because of the post-truth society that we are in and tendency to cast aspersions. And I think that a considerable focusing on the judiciary will help a lot in terms of his tenure as Chief Justice.
Dr. Ngama Ntimkap, thank you, political analyst at Nelson Mandela University, a post-truth society. Well, talking of that, it's time for the truth now. You with SFM leading the conversation. It's 7 o'clock. Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 38462. Now that's good news.
Independent and impartial. This is SFM News.
Thank you, Stephen. In your top stories, EFF calls on South Africa to end diplomatic relations with Israel, and Umgeni Water postpones planned water shutdown. This is SAFM News. A very good morning. I am Luyanda Maume. EFF leader Julius Malema has made a global call for the boycott, disinvestment and the implementing of sanctions against Israel. He was speaking during a debate sponsored by his party in the National Assembly titled Removing the Israeli Embassy and Suspension of All Diplomatic Relations with Israel. This as Israel seems unrelenting in its onslaught on Gaza, where thousands of civilians have been killed, many of them children. In recent weeks, marches in support of either Palestine and Israel have taken place in various parts of South Africa. Malema called on the ANC-led government to take a stand against Israel.
We call on the Ramaphosa ANC government to shut down the Israeli embassy in Pretoria and end diplomatic relations with that brutal apartheid Israel regime. In the name of our own constitutional values, we must end these relations until human rights of Palestinians are respected, promoted and protected.
Malema added that supporting the Israeli occupation of Palestine and the accompanying brutality and violence is a betrayal of the values of the South African Constitution.
As survivors of apartheid ourselves, we must fight on the side of the Palestinian people and always be on the side of the weak. We therefore calling on members of parliament and the people of South Africa to support the call to remove the Palestinian Israeli embassy in South Africa. We can't share a territory with murderers.
A woman arrested on suspicion that she murdered her relatives to benefit from insurance claims will be appearing in court today. The 49-year-old suspect was linked through the analysis and collection of evidence, including the exhumation of a body. She was arrested in Centurion in Pretoria yesterday with the help of the police and an insurance company. National Police spokesperson Atlenda Mate has urged insurance companies and the public to report cases where they suspect foul play or criminal activity over insurance policies or claims.
For the past 2 months, Sergeant Keshi Mabunda and a team of detectives have been working on this case following a tip-off from relatives of the suspect. Mabunda was roped in to kickstart investigations due to his expertise in solving similar cases. The suspect will now appear on a charge of murder before the Mabatu Magistrate Court on Friday.
The suspect was arrested in connection with the murder of her cousin in Mabatu in the northwest. It is alleged that she insured her relatives, killed them and claimed payouts. She is also being investigated for the death of her son who died in July this year, her husband who died in 2016, two daughters who died in 2005 and 2015 respectively. Bulk potable water provider Umgeni Uthukela Water has postponed the 18-hour water shutdown that was scheduled to start at the Durban Heights water treatment plant today. This was meant for maintenance and repairs. Umgeni Uthukela Water spokesperson Siyabonga Maphumulo says residents and businesses will be notified of a new shutdown date in due course.
Umgeni Uthukela Water, in consultation with the eThekwini municipality, has taken a decision to postpone the shutdown of the Durban Heights water treatment plant, which had been planned for Friday, the 17th of November 2023. We urge the community to continue using water sparingly.
And finally, the Umhlatuza municipality at Richards Bay on the KZN North Coast is taking the government and Transnet to court. It accuses them of failing to maintain rail infrastructure. The municipal mayor, Xolani Ngwezi, says they are taking legal steps because of the impact of the congestion of trucks that are delivering cargo, especially coal, to the port. Ngwezi says the problem has reached crisis proportions.
But every role player in this economy here in the city must play his or her own role. We must play our role. Other departments must play their role. For that matter, we have got a tripartite alliance with the port, the ITZ, and the city. But this agreement, seems to be not working really because it is eating on our budget only. There is nothing. This problem here is almost at least two or 3 years old.
Recapping your top story, EFF leader Julius Malema has made a global call for the boycott, disinvestment and the implementing of sanctions against Israel. He was speaking during a debate sponsored by his party in the National Assembly. For SAFM News, I am Luyanda Maume. Headlines at 7:30.
Luyanda, thank you. Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 38462. For a quote, Outsurance, where you always get something out. Don't wait for Black Friday to get access to great deals. SMS out to 38462 and ask Outsurance to give you a better deal on your car insurance. Ask them for 500 Rand cash if they can't beat what you're currently paying, or a massive 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. That's out to 38462. That's a monthly saving on your premium or the cash promise. You've got nothing to lose. SMS now. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, cricket, David Miller becoming the first South African to hit 100 in a World Cup knockout match. And in soccer, Keegan Dolly is looking to bounce back from a 5-month injury ordeal. Let's find out more just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The situation in Pretoria North has calmed down. The truck jackknifed on Steep Eco down by the pass is being clear. That road is reopened. It's alleviated the real pressure that we had earlier through the Vanderboom Pass and Vanderboom Junction areas. The R21, make sure you got a ton of time to get through from Pretoria for flight connections at the airport. There's an incident just north of Olifantsfontein Road, and the traffic coming from St George's Hotel territory is already heavily backed up. If you're leaving Umhlanga in Durban, on your way to Durban, avoid the M4. Take Umhlanga Rocks Drive. Trust me, you'll get through a lot quicker this morning. Kumashu Highway is heavy from Mallandela Road through the N2, through Duffs Road, congested through the M2 and onto Chris Harney. That is possibly related to some load shedding there. And the M13 out to Paradise Valley is very heavy as you join onto the N3. We think that's probably roadwork related. Cape Town, the N7, Jakes Kerville, there's a bit of a standout this morning. Queuing pressure both ways into the Four Trekker Road junction. Four Trekker Road coming through Goodwood towards Kensington, backlogging as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
7:07. Good morning with SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Friday morning, I suppose in a way the Friday after the Cricket World Cup semi-final, the men's semi-final, of course. We'll talk about that as we go through the morning together. Lots of conversations around it. Very difficult sort of time, I think, for the team, but certainly so much better than what we thought was going to happen, you know. And suddenly they were in with a realistic chance of being in the final of the Cricket World Cup. No one really thought that would happen when they went. And, you know, we've heard from various people, and Aslam Korter and Eddie Lay and others, just about what's changed in the team. We'll continue those conversations. The situation with Israel and our relationship with Israel, very much in the spotlight again, and we thought just worth focusing again on that. It sort of brings into focus the situation we have around all of the conversations with the Middle East, with what's happening in Gaza, etc. We'll talk to Sophie Mokoena, we'll talk to Professor Mia Swart, we'll speak to Professor Christopher Sike, and just look at different issues coming out of that around the law, the International Criminal Court, our political relationships, and all of those conversations. That to come in the next little while. Also, don't forget, we'll be talking about hate speech. I was intrigued, actually. There's a sort of provision in the new bill that went through the National Council of Provinces that says you can't make sort of prejudicial comments about people based on their profession. So I ask you, is it wrong to say all journalists are liars? I mean, would that be hate speech? Could someone go to jail for saying that? Have you seen my timeline? I mean, it's such an interesting conversation. And you know, what would happen if politicians were to say things? What if we say disparaging things about all politicians? I mean, surely we can do that, can't we? So I think there's some interesting arguments here. That to come. Book your spot now, by the way, for your story of the week. 086 000 2032. Stanzo Namdu standing by. Might be the cricket, might be the situation in Gaza, might be the death of the Gift of the Givers organizer in Gaza, Ahmed Abisi. Could well be mining, could be anything. What happened to you this week? Looking forward to that. 9 after 7.
It's time for the most anticipated event of the year, the Crown Gospel Music Awards, 26 November at FNB Stadium in a breathtaking dome marquee. So, dress up and be prepared to walk the golden carpet. La Lela, levels. Tickets are at Ticket Pro and Spar. Check voting details on Crown social media pages. Hashtag a new season.
Hallo Koos, hope you're well. Listen, I see Michelle's drove now you're in with such a fancy car. And then I asked her, is this your new car? She said no, it's pre-owned and she bought it for a bargain from We Buy Cars. It's a fancy bloody ding hoor. Apparently they didn't trade it in her ouma's car and then they got this one. Oh, you must go look. Michelle says it's a dream car and she bought it for a bargain. She herself couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the price.
We Buy Cars, the best place to buy a car by far.
28 years ago, two great outfits of global rugby met in the Rugby World Cup final.
The Springboks and the All Blacks.
The Boks had a good day in the office in 1995 and lifted the Webb Ellis Cup on home soil. Amabokoboko have silenced the All Blacks once again.
At the Rugby World Cup Final France 2023 in search of their fourth title. La la, Zanzi Africa.
Back-to-back victors and four-time champions of the Rugby World Cup.
An extra seat has been booked for a flight back to Africa Tonga for the Webb Ellis Cup to travel with the world's best rugby national team. Amabokoboko. Congratulations to the Springboks.
Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the
game. Big stories of the day. Hashtag SAFM Sunrise.
All right, 11 after 7. Well, in Parliament yesterday, the ANC appearing to support the EFF motion that South Africa should cut all diplomatic ties with Israel over its invasion or attack on Gaza in response to the attacks on Israel by Hamas. The EFF leader Julius Malema saying we should essentially expel the Israeli ambassador. The ANC supporting the motion, but it has its own amendments, and Parliament only actually votes on Tuesday. And there might be, some sort of change to the final outcome. Let's start our coverage this morning with Sophie Mokoena, international news editor here at the SABC. Sophie, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
We know the conflict in Gaza provokes huge emotions in our country. People are very angry. There's a huge resonance with what's happening to the Palestinians right now. Do you expect our foreign policy to change over this? Could Israel become what I think would be the first country we cut diplomatic ties with?
I don't know whether it will take us there, but I think there will be more actions taken. For example, the president has announced that South Africa has referred this matter to the International Criminal Court. I mean, this is huge. That step is huge. Much as this matter was already before the International Court of Justice and also before the International Criminal Court. There were investigations already underway, and also this week more countries had taken similar steps, for example, Turkey. And therefore, you can see that South Africa this time wants a more robust or a more harsher action imposed on Israel. But we will see, as you pointed out, you're talking about some amendment. Now the question is, what will be that amendment? Because of this thing, on yesterday it was mini plenary. It has to go to the National Assembly next week, where they will debate and then finally vote. Now the issue is, are we going to see a watered down motion going through? So we will see this week, these few days, there's going to be strong lobbying from politics, outside business, and international.
So I suppose most ANC members or leaders may agree morally with the EFF about cutting ties with Israel. But governance sometimes isn't about how you feel. It's about, it can be a bit more complicated than that. So you're suggesting that actually cutting ties with Israel may not be what happens in the end. And I mean, there's sort of lots of wheels within wheels, lots of moving parts to all of this. So it may actually be impossible right now to predict what will happen.
That is the resolution that was taken at the conference in 2017. The resolution was clear that they must close down and they must take harsh steps. But what did South Africa do? Downgrade, didn't close the embassy in Tel Aviv. And only now they have recalled the staff that was there after downgrading. And the minister, would recall, said they are consulting. So there's still a possibility that staff can go back. So you see, with government, it's not as easy as a political decision. But secondly, for the opposition, it's much easier to make demands and very tough demands because they want to demonstrate that they can do things differently. But with government, there's a lot to consider. So we don't know. Let's see what happens next week, finally, when this matter is again in the National Assembly. And from there, let's see those processes, because then other processes must kick in where government gets involved. So we don't know. But I think it's not going to be business as usual as it has been previously, where nothing was done. Something is going to give. When I spoke to EFF, they said it's promising. So when they say when I asked them, are you confident next week this will go through? They said it's promising. So when they say it's promising, I think it's because of behind the scenes, ANC is putting forward some amendments.
Sophie Mokoena, thank you. SABC International News Editor. Do appreciate the time, 17 after 7. Well, as you heard Sophie explain, earlier this week, President Cyril Ramaphosa saying he believed Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza through the way it's killing Palestinians while it says it's searching for Hamas. He said Israel would support a motion that Israel would be prosecuted by the International Criminal Court. Israel is not a member of the court, but Palestine is, and as I understand it, the court still has sort of global jurisdiction over issues like a charge of genocide. Professor Mia Swart is an associate professor, a visiting professor of international law at the Wits Law School. She joins us now. Professor Swart, good morning to you. Is there a strong case here to take Israel to the International Criminal Court? Is there a chance of a successful prosecution?
Hello, Stephen. Yes. Well, the matter of Palestine has been before the ICC for some years. So there's certainly a strong case. There's a stronger case than ever before. And, the matter was accepted already in 2021, before that in 2019. And now we see more casualties. We see more war crimes. We see forms of genocide. So there's a strong case. The question is whether it will make any difference, because it will be a very long process. It will be a drawn-out process. Nothing is going to happen in the short term. And I am a bit worried that some of the measures that the South African government is now taking so fervently is a bit like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. I mean, Gaza is sinking, and they're talking about ICC, but that could take years.
I've heard commentary from the Israeli side that would argue that the real issue is the hostages. So Hamas is holding Israeli civilians. It's holding them against their will. The argument would be that if that is the case, you're allowed to kill people to get your hostages back. Would that be a strong defense?
No, I think increasingly, even Western leaders such as Macron is turning against Israel, is saying that the disproportionality here is so vast that it is simply unjustifiable and morally unconscionable. I think that there is an awareness that the principle of proportionality is fundamental, and you cannot use 12 hammers to kill a fly, or you simply can't do that. I was just thinking about whether that's the best analogy, because
let me put it
such a vast disproportionality.
Let me put it another way. You can't kill 100 people to rescue one.
Yes.
Okay. As you say, you're very, I think must be correct to suggest that the International Criminal Court won't actually be able to do anything, or certainly not in the short term. The West is backing Israel by and large. Does the West have influence over the International Criminal Court? And I realize that's a sort of big question.
No, that's the best question. That's a brilliant question, because that is the bottom line. There's no political will on the ICC to prosecute Western states, and we know that America is a massive backer of the ICC, of Israel, not of the ICC, but of Israel. So in effect, if you're prosecuting Israel, you're prosecuting the US. And I do not see Karim Khan, who is a UK national, the chief prosecutor of the ICC, being willing to do this. Everything so far has pointed to Khan being loyal to the UK government. So this is exactly what it comes down to.
So in the end, the ICC is going to do nothing. We're all going to talk about it. President Ramaphosa will use a legally important word, genocide, and nothing's really going to happen on the ground from the ICC.
I think using the word genocide is quite powerful. I think that is the one thing that is quite powerful. But I think it's important to explain to people that, the word is not used loosely, that there is, by now so much evidence that this is happening, that it even meets the strict definition of the ICC, that it's, evident from pronouncement made by Netanyahu and his top brass all the time. And I think that word could in itself be very, very, very powerful.
Professor Mia Swart, thank you. Visiting Professor of International Law at Wits Law School, 21 after 7, with SAFM. Professor Christopher Isika is a Professor of African Politics and International Relations in the Department of Political Sciences at the University of Pretoria. Professor Isika, good morning to you. We have this situation where the world is focused on the Middle East conflict. We might cut diplomatic relations with Israel over this war. I suppose the question would be, if we decided next week to cut these relationships, would that be permanent? Or would we somehow end up restoring relations at some time? I suppose there are very few countries that will say we refuse to ever talk to you ever again, permanently and forever.
Good morning, Stephen. I don't think it's going to be permanent. It's going to be contingent on a number of factors. How the ICC case plays out and how the current conflict is eventually resolved. There are historical ties between Israel and South Africa that cannot be simply wished away. However, this is I heard Professor Swart talk about the lack of political will on the part of the major players and the fact that the ICC is not an immediate solution because it's going to be long drawn, and she's correct. But at least what countries like South Africa are doing is taking these political actions on the ground that have almost immediate effects and represent a dissatisfaction and a reprimand of some sort, which I'm sure that countries will copy from, and hopefully this will contribute to changing the tide.
If we cut diplomatic ties with a country, so our government A no longer talks to government B, does it stop a country A and country B trading? I mean, the way goods move now, it can be quite difficult to know where things come from. I mean, would it hurt an economic relationship? I don't know if that matters in this case, but would it?
Well, ordinarily, it wouldn't. It would depend on the response of the country that is being affected by the action taken by country A, for instance. So how country B chooses to respond in like manner, or even escalating it further, would determine whether it will affect trade relations between those countries or not. So there will have to be a cost benefit analysis to see who benefits more from that kind of economic relationship, and whether that economic relationship can then become a tool for either of them to use to achieve their agenda.
This conflict in the Middle East obviously can create or maybe expose divisions in our society. You see how people talk about it. But the same is actually happening around the world. And there was this dividing line really over Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And it was sort of between the West and kind of many other countries. But I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that, as you know. Are we seeing similar dividing lines now between countries that support Israel and countries which support Palestine? And is this going to be a fault line in international relations?
It will be, and these divisions are not just between countries; they're also within countries. If you saw the debate in Parliament yesterday, you could see those fault lines dividing parties and peoples across all kinds of lines, right? Which those will become defining features of the politics of this country, and they can also impact on outcomes as well. You saw that the United States is beginning to kind of rethink or retrace steps a bit more with regards to this, and it is coming from increasing pressure from within those who do not support the role that the United States is playing. Of course, we've had the Jewish community come out, and have their own protests in support of the government, but there are cracks on the side of the Democrats that show that this can affect the outcomes for President Biden, and this is the reason why, for example, they abstained in the UN Security Council approved resolution that called for urgent and extended humanitarian pauses and corridors throughout the Gaza Strip, right? So these are important drivers or indicators of change, and they could be driven by internal fault lines, divisions between different kinds of people. But there's one thing that binds everyone: the simple humanity that is at core in this particular conflict.
Professor Christopher Isika, good point on which to leave it. Thank you. Professor of African Politics and International Relations at the University of Pretoria.
Did you hear that? That's the sound of lights being switched off to reduce the impact of load shedding. Eskom is encouraging you to use less electricity at all times by switching off electrical appliances and lights that are not in use. Cell phone chargers, TVs, and decoders still use electricity if they're not switched off at the socket. You see, if we all switch off what is not in use, our combined effort could help reduce the impact of load shedding. Let's work together by switching off to reduce load shedding.
Black Friday is back at Dis-Chem, now for 9 days, from Wednesday 22nd to Thursday 30th November. Make the most of big offers and huge savings. Get down to Black Friday at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Have you ever noticed how unique the rugby ball is?
You should check out Head High.
The rise of junior rugby stars Mana and Tai.
Vince is not just their stepfather, he's their coach.
Catch the brothers' dream of the black jersey, Head High, every Sunday at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
# Rugby Drama Galore. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. Well, obviously mopping up after yesterday's cricket. Good day for David Miller, though.
Oh, extraordinary. What 115 that he hit. And against all the odds, David Miller becoming the first South African batter in history for the Proteas to hit 100 in a knockout match of an ODI World Cup. At one point, South Africa were reduced to 24 for 4 and then 119 for 6. And it was David Miller who held his fort against the spirited Australian attack. And that was on a tough pitch at Eden Gardens in Kolkata yesterday. The Proteas, however, fell to a 3-wicket defeat to Australia. And here's David Miller reflecting on the Proteas' heartbreaking semi-final exit.
I suppose there was a lot more tears in Auckland, but it's not a great feeling. It's a bit like hollow. It's been such a great campaign from the team, been really consistent throughout. Individuals have stood up and done exceptional things. We've fought together as a team in certain games, so to lose this, it's part of the game, but it's really frustrating.
Now, soccer, Kaizer Chiefs attacker Keegan Dolly finally bouncing back from a 5-month injury ordeal as he had to undergo surgery in April. He's now returned, which has coincided with his former youth mentor, Kevin Johnson, taking over the reins at Kaizer Chiefs. The 30-year-old has missed out on a lot of football, including a place in the Bafana squad, something he says he's not worried about.
It was a setback, but it's part of football. It comes with a game. For me, it was just trying to stay positive, try to work myself back into the team, get back to normal fitness, and then we see where it goes. I know Coach Kevin from, I think, since I was 8 years old. But it was never a personal relationship. I knew him as a coach also. It was a football relationship. It's very professional. We both have a job to do, and that's that.
Tennis action, Jannik Sinner defeating Holger Rune as he beat him over 3 sets at the ATP Nitto final, 6-2, 5-7, 6-4. And that was 2 days after Sinner beat Novak Djokovic for the first time. Now, Djokovic saying that he's keen to play Rafa Nadal at least one more time. Nadal has been plagued by injuries in recent years and sat out almost all of the 2023 season. Here's Djokovic.
I think it would be nice, for the sport to have at least one more match. Between Nadal and me. That's the biggest rivalry in terms of the amount of matches played that this sport ever had. So hopefully that can happen. He's a big warrior. He's somebody that really never gives up, and with all the injuries that he had, keeps going. That's definitely something that you have to respect and admire about him and his spirit. So, for the world of tennis, no doubt that it's amazing news that he'll be back.
That's Novak Djokovic on Sunrise. We'll bring you more sport headlines, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thank you very much indeed. Good morning to you. We'll be talking about hate speech. For example, if you say something horrible about someone based on what they do for a living, if they're a journalist or something, is that hate speech? We'll look at that. You with SFM leading the conversation. Stage 3 now, stage 1 and 2 over the weekend, 7:30.
Thank you, Stephen. In your headlines, Israeli forces searching in and around the biggest hospital in Gaza, Al-Shifa, say they've recovered the body of a woman nearby who was taken hostage last month by Hamas. The Israeli military says a 65-year-old Yehudi device was murdered but gave no details. A woman arrested on suspicion that she murdered her relatives to benefit from insurance claims will be appearing in court today. The 49-year-old suspect was linked through analysis and collection of evidence, including the exhumation of her body. And the Communication Workers Union has declared a wage dispute against the SABC at the CCMA. The dispute comes after the SABC rejected a revised wage offer of 9% brought forward by the CWU. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Yeah, very good morning. Make sure you get a ton of time to get out of Pretoria for flight connections at OR Tambo International Airport. There's a crime scene just before the Olifantsfontein Road exit. There was a crash in the mix as well, but it's the crime scene that is still causing the enormous backlog. It's almost back as far as Nell Mapier's Drive. If you know what you're doing, you can take the Pretoria Road. Well, come out. Well, no, I was going to say you can do that, but you can't really because you've got to get into Irene, and that's a mission. So just give yourself plenty of time to get through that R21. If you are diverting at Nell Mapier's, just note that Nell Mapier's Drive queues heavily from the college down towards the main road junction. It has been every morning this week, and it is again today. Crash on Joburg's N3 North at Buccleuch, so delays lining up from the Limbro Park side. A couple of issues around Durban, very heavy still on the M4, the Ruthfirst Highway. If you're coming from Mshlanga down towards Virginia Airport and Durban North, Mshlanga Rocks Drive still looks a good option. There is a crash scene, as well as the roadworks on the N2 going north. This crash before Spaghetti Junction, the works after, so big backlogs from the M7. And the M13, heavy queues from Fields Hill all the way down into Paradise Valley, so right through Pinetown towards the N3 joints, very heavy. And then Cape Town, the standout this morning is the N7, Jakes Kerville Drive. There are crashes on both sides, northbound at Milton, southbound before Voortrekker, pretty much the same place. It means major queues, particularly north from Langa, southbound from Frans Conradi. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Ray McClarky, good morning. Asian markets, US markets, how they're all looking this morning?
Well, both markets are mostly down. It has been a tough week for financial markets. Investors had to contend with the consumer inflation rate rising during October in the US. This brings the prospect of more interest rate increases. And in the Asia-Pacific region, Japan's economy fell by 2.1% from July to September. So in Asian markets, Japan's Nikkei is up 0.2%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng is down 2.2%. And China's Shanghai Composite is down 0.2%. And the US market finished higher yesterday, and before the US market officially opens later today, Nasdaq, Dow Jones, and S&P futures are each down 0.1% this morning, and our market, the JSE, was down 1.4% yesterday. The shares of banks were the biggest losers of the day.
And Khosiansora Makgopa, he wants Eskom workers to get a bonus. And I remember when he made this promise thinking, where's that money going to come from? He's found a solution.
Well, the electricity minister wants Eskom to give workers performance bonuses. Bonuses at Eskom were stopped in 2017 because of the power utilities' difficult financial situation. It is not clear how these performance bonuses will be structured or paid, but according to Ramakgopa, the money will come from the savings by Eskom on its diesel expenditure. Eskom had a budget of 30 billion rand this year to spend on diesel to run its open cycle gas turbines, which lessened the need for higher stages of Eskom blackouts. Of the 30 billion rand budget for diesel, Eskom has so far spent 21 billion rand, so the 9 billion rand saving might go towards incentivizing Eskom workers.
And then government plans to increase the import of table eggs. This, of course, after the avian flu.
Yeah, there's currently a shortage of eggs due to the bird flu outbreak, which is apparently the worst South Africa has seen since 2017. The outbreak has led to 6 million egg-laying chickens to be culled. This has also resulted in the price of eggs to be high. And to alleviate this crisis, the government now plans to increase imports of eggs in an attempt to meet the local demand of eggs. So you, the consumer, will be eating imported eggs.
Ray Makhlaka, thank you very much indeed. Ray, of course, back on Monday. More business news through the day here on SAFM. 24 minutes now to 8.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, lots going on this morning. You know the number, 086 000 2032. Hassan on the line from Johannesburg. Hassan, good morning. The situation in the Middle East.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. It's about this directive called the Hannibal Directive that emerged during the 1980s. Israel uses it where basically when its soldiers have been kidnapped, if you like, by Hezbollah or someone, they don't want to negotiate. They said a dead soldier rather than then negotiate to release prisoners and others. And that is what is informing this mass killing, because clearly they want to negotiate, they should do so. And then secondly, I wanted just to point out that we in the media seem to have followed very simply that 1,400 people have been killed. We don't say according to the IDF. Now the figure has been reduced to 1,200 because a number of them are soldiers, and that correction doesn't come across very strongly.
Yeah. So Hassan, just hold on. You pointed to sort of difficult issue for journalists. I mean, when the number was reduced down, I did refer to it. The other thing is that what other people will say is that the Hamas says, and then give the total of Palestinians who are dead. They'll say it'll be the Hamas-controlled health ministry. And I haven't been doing that, and I haven't been doing it for Israel either. So I sort of think we're kind of okay. I mean, it's something worth considering, but, it's sort of, it goes in both directions is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I guess, Stephen, but by and large, the style books in Europe and elsewhere have been changed, Simply that when Biden doesn't believe the figures, then they've got to change because it is Hamas controlled. Therefore, these are not doctors with the hypocritical oaths and stuff like that. So clearly, this is the kind of thing that Europe has been trying to teach us, and I think it's wrong.
Well, I don't know if much turns on it because the numbers are just so devastating in terms of the numbers of Palestinians who have died. Hassan in Joburg, thank you. Churchill and Mthatha, hi, the International Criminal Court.
Yes, Stephen. There's no truth in politics. I think
there's no what in politics?
There's no truth.
Oh, truth, yeah?
Yeah. Because I don't say I'm against the move by the South African government to actually, appeal to the ICC. Also to cut ties with Israel.
Yeah.
But we might as well do that against the United States of America.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we won't go that route because we know what we're benefiting from the States.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm trying to say? So that's a debate that we should be engaging in.
So, I suppose the question you're asking is, do we need to have consistency? And the obvious example is,
Absolutely.
Do we impose sanctions against Russia? Yeah.
Yes, we need to have consistency.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if there is consistency in international relations. Churchill and Mthatha, thank you. Jock in KwaZulu-Natal. Morning, Jock.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Go for it.
Okay. On the subject of the Middle East, I think that we need to remember that who invaded Israel is the first thing. But I don't see the reason why we should be going so far when we can't sort out the problems with our neighbors. So that goes for Zimbabwe, Maputo. We need to sort out the problems within Africa first before we go international and do anything else. I mean, let's even start with the people that we have problems with at home, our normal citizens. I mean, we can't walk out at night, we can't do all of this. We seem to give foreigners a right. And this is exactly why there's so many problems at the moment. People are polarized between whether foreigners are like this or like that, or where do they come from. I mean, just as a simple rule, I mean, how can we say that we don't want the Pakistanis here, but we're willing to put our flag and put all our people under one banner and say, no, we don't want this for Palestine? I mean, aren't they Muslim as well? I mean, most people just have a rule or have an opinion because they are either Islamic or they're Christian or they're Jewish. I mean, don't we rather deal with the facts first, find out exactly what's happening, instead of making this whole thing about our feelings and opinions when it should be fact-based? Because having opinions means that it's more about a feeling than it is about truth or justice.
So I mean, there's a great quote that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks, which is, are you trying to look for understanding, or are you just looking for someone to blame, Jock? He's saying we're doing too much looking for someone to blame.
Correct, 100%, because like I said, I mean, I'm an Indian guy, and obviously if I see a fellow Indian having problems or whatever it is, I would associate or put myself into that man's shoe easier because my color or my religion or anything else. But I'm saying that's not the right thing to do. That's why we have a justice system.
Yes.
That's why we have equality, is because justice is blind, because we don't look at a person like that because of association. We need to see the facts. And I think the facts speak for themselves, that we should really sort out our own country and help our people first before we go doing handouts and putting our name to a cause that maybe not all of us follow. I mean, the government seems fine to do that, but at the end of the day, we are all the individuals, whether we're the small individual or whether we're the majority. doesn't really matter. I mean, we need something that will actually support us as South Africans, not as Africans, not as Israelis, not as Palestinians, but as South Africans. How does this help us? I mean, the government can take a stance like this, but we can't take a stance amongst gender-based violence, amongst men with weapons, about vigilantism, anything. I mean, our country doesn't seem to take any stance as solid as it has on this matter. And like you said, talking as the person that phoned before me, I mean, what about Russia and Ukraine?
Right.
I mean, we forget, are the Ukrainians not also partly Muslim in certain states? They are, but no one seems to be talking about that. There are Christians that die in Palestine as well. I don't see us taking a stance on that either.
Jock on the line from KwaZulu-Natal. Interesting questions to consider. I think it is true that a country can both work on its own problems and comment on other problems elsewhere. I think that's what all countries do. But I do hear the point. I think there's an interesting point there. Your views, 17 minutes now to 8.
No matter how much you plan, sometimes life happens. And when life happens, there's Cash Converters Cash Advance Loan. Our 30-day cash advance loan allows you to take care of those unexpected surprises. Simply bring in your items such as jewelry, tech and more. We'll keep it safe and you'll walk out with some much-needed cash. Plus, stand a chance to win 20,000 Rand every week. So, visit a Cash Converters store today. T's and C's apply. Cash Converters, we buy, we sell, we loan cash. 28 years ago, two great outfits of global rugby met in the Rugby World Cup final.
The Springboks and the All Blacks.
The Boks had a good day in the office in 1995 and lifted the Webb Ellis Cup on home soil. Amabokoboko have silenced the All Blacks once again.
At the Rugby World Cup Final France 2023 in search of their fourth title. La la Zanzi Afrika.
Back-to-back victors and four-time champions of the Rugby World Cup.
An extra seat has been booked for a flight back to Africa Tonga for the Webb Ellis Cup to travel with the world's best rugby national team. Amabokoboko. Congratulations to the Springboks.
Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM 104 to 107. Nationwide.
16 minutes to 8 the time. Good morning. Well, the National Council of Provinces this week passing the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill. It would make hate speech illegal, whether it's in a WhatsApp message, if it's on Facebook, if it's on X or Twitter, whatever it is. It would be illegal. Lerato Ntwampe is a social media legal consultant and attorney. Lerato, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
We've always had certain offences around this. So there was the Equality Act, for example, and it's always been a crime to say certain things. Does this bill criminalise new forms of speech? Does it make certain things an offence that were not an offence before?
No, absolutely. I think this specific bill, what it's done is that now it's increased more grounds in terms of hate speech, although they were there in the Equality Act. But I think with this specific act, they make it a crime. So it's more specific because obviously it speaks to publishing, it speaks to advocating for anything, it speaks to communication, and it also speaks to electronic communications, which we didn't have before. So it makes it a bit more clearer in terms of what hate speech is, and especially hate speech online.
There's so many interesting things to this. So, for example, it says you cannot show a prejudice based on someone's profession. So if someone were to say on social media, Stephen Grootes, you are a journalist, you are a lying journalist, you are all the same, journalists are all liars, would that be illegal?
I think it would apply more to the hate crime. So the occupation part of it, part of the characteristics that they've now included is for hate crime. So for example, if I go and murder Stephen Grootes because I believe that journalists are liars, then it would be constituted as a hate crime and not necessarily hate speech. So for the occupation bit, it's part of hate crime and not specifically hate speech. So the grounds for hate speech would be age, albinism, for example, birth, color, culture, disability, ethnicity, and the list goes on. But occupation specifically has been sort of like rooted out, and it's more specific to a hate crime. So, for example, if you go to a doctor and now you hate doctors because maybe your child didn't survive cancer or they didn't survive, and now you just have this perceived notion and you just have this prejudice and intolerance towards doctors, and you decide to murder a doctor or assault a doctor, then it would be constituted as a hate crime.
So people can still say all politicians can't be trusted.
I mean, I think there needs to be a clear intention to be harmful, and obviously to incite harm. And harm has obviously been given a definition. Harm needs to be economical, harm needs to be psychological, social, and substantial. So obviously, a victim would then need to be able to sort of write a sworn statement or affirmation to actually reflect that they've suffered some kind of harm. So I think it's not just a blanket of just saying that I'm going to offend Stephen, but I need to be able to show that there's been harm, and you've caused some sort of harm, and obviously your harm needs to be on the basis of, has it been psychological, emotional, economical, and also social. So I think intention also needs to be there. So I don't think it's just a tick box exercise just to say that, well, just because I've offended Stephen, now I'm going to be found guilty of this offense.
Okay, so it's not just about feeling offended. It's about something more than that. It needs to be...
Absolutely.
Okay. It's intriguing. I mean, there's a really interesting philosophical debate about this. Someone commits a murder. They say they committed a murder because of the person's profession or the person's gender. But the person is still dead. Does it really matter what was going through the mind of the person who killed them? I mean, and
I think...
Because what I'm trying to get to is So committing a murder, which is probably the worst crime that you can do, does it matter why the person committed the murder? So in other words, the person would go to jail for life anyway. What's another 10 years because it was motivated by prejudice?
I think it does matter, Stephen. I think if you look at the albino killings and you look at the corrective rape, against lesbians and queer women, and you look at xenophobia, I think it is important that we make that distinction that it was a hate crime because this person essentially is prejudice against these people. I think it does matter, although, yes, you're going for murder anyway, but I think it's that element that gives justice to those people, those minority groups, who are probably overlooked by society. And it's very important that, we make quite a clear statement that if you are going to commit a hate crime or you do have sort of a prejudice against people, that if you decide to murder them, there will also be that element of a hate crime and you will be labeled as such in society.
Okay, it's fascinating. There are other things that happen all the time. So from time to time, politicians in our society, and I'm not going to mention the examples, although I can if I need to, have used the word, and I there's some insults that Julius Malema once said something about Claudie Motsoeneng that I can't repeat on the radio, and he said it at a rally.
Yes.
In fact, I can see the gate where he said it. But there's the word cockroach, right? I thought this might be a useful example. Is it wrong to call someone a cockroach in a way that politicians mean it, by which I think you could argue it means that you are an animal. It means you're an animal that needs to be squashed. You need to be stood on. There's the history of the use of the word cockroach in Rwanda, for example. Or would that be someone that would say it's just a common or garden insult? I just mean to show that I despise you and that I do not trust you. So would that word, be a problem under this law?
I think absolutely. I think it would, because then it shows a clear intention, because I think we need to look at the history of the word. And I think that's what's always important. People would say there have been cases where people have been called monkey and, they got away with it. But if, when the case went to a higher division, the judge would then look at the history of the word monkey, for example, and say it is a hurtful thing. There's a clear intention to be harmful and to incite some sort of harm, and obviously to promote some sort of hatred based on that specific ground. So I think words like that have history and that are there to sort of like incite some sort of harm, and obviously also be harmful, I think they would definitely then be taken as hate speech. So I think it is important that certain words, even certain emojis that we'll be using forward now, will also be constituted as hate speech, because if there is a clear intention for that, you using it to sort of incite harm or to promote propaganda, or even if you share something that was harmful and then you use an emoji, maybe you're laughing, it means that you might be agreeing with it. So I think there are certain words and certain emojis and certain phrases in our society that we use willingly, but if we look at the history of the word and the depth of the word, then we'll be able to establish it as hate speech.
And under the bill, if it's passed in this form, is only the person who makes the comment responsible. And where I'm really getting with here is WhatsApp administrators. Could they be responsible too?
Absolutely. I think then the chain of publication would obviously apply, because if it does say that if you distribute it on electronic communication and you know that it's hate speech, if you continue to obviously distribute it, you will be held liable unless you're obviously it's part of the exceptions where you're distributing it maybe for fair comment or accurate reporting, or academic and scientific inquiry, or in terms of creativity. So I think there are certain exclusions or exceptions that exclude how we'll be engaging with those terms. But obviously the chain of application would obviously play a part there, and you would be held liable if you don't meet some of those exceptions.
Lerato Ntwampe, really appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much. Lerato Ntwampe is a social media legal consultant and attorney. 7 minutes to 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Stays heavy on the R21 between Pretoria and the airport. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through this backlog if you're heading for flight connections. Police are dealing with a crime scene sort of halfway between St George's Hotel and Olifantsfontein, and the traffic's almost backed as far as Nel Mapius Drive. Lighter volumes this morning. You can see that on the N1 coming south into the roadworks at the R21. Traffic only really backlogging from Gausfontein. That's about half the size that it normally would be. Also, the N3 on the run north towards Giluli is a lot easier as well than the sort of Monday to Thursday snarl up through there. A lot of issues around Durban, the M4, Ruthfirst Highway, Umhlanga down towards Virginia Airport remains heavy. Southern Freeway, Congella up to CBD stays tight as well. There's problems coming out from Fields Hill, the M13 very heavy right through to Paradise Valley, and the Kwamashu Highway's heavy still from Malindela through the N2 and on towards Chris Hani. Cape Town, the big standout there as well today is the N7 Jakes Kervel Drive, crashed just north of 4 Trekker Road, a truck and a taxi involved. The N7's queuing heavily going north from Langa, and there's a backlog coming south from France Conradi Drive as well. Marine Drive easing up nicely. We told you it's a lighter day on a Friday. Marine Drive out of Table View to Milnerton, flowing reasonably nicely. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Make every weekend a fragrance weekend with Dis-Chem Pharmacies. Get an incredible 20% off your favorite fragrance like Antonio Banderas, Coach, Davidoff, Jimmy Choo, Kenzo, Mercedes-Benz and Jupe. This weekend only, 18 and 19 November. Shop online or in-store for the best prices on our wide range of luxurious fragrances. Dis-Chem Pharmacies. Better health starts here.
The beauty, power, elegance and speed of horse racing.
The passion at the heart of horse racing diligence.
Where these magnificent creatures and their skilled jockeys compete for glory.
Racing today.
Catch it live on Mondays to Fridays on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
# Horses of Great Character. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Agenda-setting conversations of the day.
4 minutes now to 8 the time. Well, in Umsunduzi, there appears to be a problem with traffic lights, and you see this in many places. But what's happening now is that people are stealing the traffic controllers. They're called the Tyco Eclipse traffic light controllers. They're being stolen and then resold. As a result, traffic lights aren't working. The city manager in Umsunduzi is Lulamile Mapaloba. Lulamile, good morning. Good to talk to you again. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, SG, and your listeners of SAFM.
How many of your traffic light controllers are being stolen?
There is quite a substantial number. I think it's affecting about 5 or 6 intersections here in the Central Business District area, and it's quite a very bad situation.
What does someone do with a traffic controller? I mean, what else can you use it for?
We suspect that this Tyco Eclipse traffic controller, which is made in Australia, has an element of aluminium. So we suspect that there might be a market for them where they are selling them. So the vandals might be, there are 2 possibilities. Either is the organized crime in the form of those people that are using it, or are the vandals? But clearly, SG, there is a market for them. That's why they are stealing them.
Are they expensive?
They are very expensive. We spend almost 2 million to replace them a year. A model is around 100,000 a model, and then the complete unit is around 120. But it also depends on the Australian dollar rand exchange. Sure. You see. Yes.
I have to ask, so I've made this suggestion before with other cities, but no one seems to take me up on it, which is that when we have this damage, and it's difficult to stop, and I have sympathy for you on this one, Lulamile. I mean, it is difficult to stop. But is it not maybe a better thing to employ, for not very much money, to employ people, train them to actually manage the intersections and give, if you've got big intersections, and actually that's the right thing to do. You have 2 shifts of people, one does morning, one does afternoon, they get income, they can do another job during the day if they want. Surely that's the right thing.
It's the right thing, SG. We are working on that now through the EP, the Expanded Public Works Program. We'll be introducing quite a number of them. We are also increasing the number of traffic wardens who will be manning the controlling traffic, more especially on peak hours on most of our CPT areas and the township, because this problem is also in the we are exploring exactly that. Actually, I'm taking you on that one.
Yeah. And I mean, can I just say, Lulamile, if you do this, the training course that you run, you can phone the city of Joburg and say, we'll train your people for a fee. Make some money out of Joburg. They're so slow about this. They won't do it. Will you encourage them as well, maybe?
Definitely. I think through our local government association, SALGA, we are going to put forward that particular problem. But I'm working very hard on that because it affects traffic. It affects the economy. Because some of the people are rushing to the airport, some of the people are rushing to their business meetings, they get caught up in the grid. It's very chaotic, SG, and therefore we have to collaborate as cities and secondary cities within the Republic to ensure that there's free flow of traffic.
And some people might be late for Royal AM matches.
Maybe for cricket, who knows?
Lulamile, thank you. Lulamile Mapaloba is the city manager, the municipality city manager for Umsunduzi. You may remember a previous conversation, a discussion he and I had on that issue. You were there, SAFM, leading the conversation. It's 8 o'clock. Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 38462. Now that's good news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Thank you, Stephen. In your top stories, Israeli military says it has discovered the body of a hostage, and union declares wage dispute at the public broadcaster. This is SAFM News. A very good morning. I am Luyanda Maume. Israeli forces searching in and around the biggest hospital in Gaza, Al-Shifa, say they've recovered the body of a woman nearby who was taken hostage last month by Hamas. The Israeli military says 65-year-old Yehudit Weiss was murdered but gave no details. The BBC's Nick Beek reports.
The Israeli military is saying that a number of weapons were there when her body was discovered and that her family have now been told what happened. Separately, there has been other work continuing at the hospital. Tonight, the Israelis are saying that they've found some sort of tunnel shaft. We don't know the significance of this and they haven't provided any more information. Certainly, there has been pressure on the Israelis to really substantiate this central claim. They've said that Hamas has a big command centre right underneath the hospital, and this was a justification for their huge military operation there. Hamas has always denied that.
Meanwhile, EFF leader Julius Malema has made a global call for the boycott, disinvestment and the implementation of sanctions against Israel. He was speaking during a debate sponsored by his party in the National Assembly titled Removing the Israeli Embassy and Suspension of All Diplomatic Relations with Israel. Malema called on the ANC-led government to take action against Israel.
We call on the Ramaphosa ANC government to shut down the Israeli embassy in Pretoria and end diplomatic relations with that brutal apartheid Israel regime. In the name of our own constitutional values, we must end these relations until human rights of Palestinians are respected, promoted and protected.
A woman arrested on suspicion that she murdered her relatives to benefit from insurance claims will be appearing in court today. The 49-year-old suspect was linked through analysis and collection of evidence, including the exhumation of a body. She was arrested in Centurion, Pretoria yesterday with the help of the police and an insurance company. National Police spokesperson Atlenda Mate has urged insurance companies and the public to report cases where they suspect foul play or criminal activity over insurance policies or claims.
For the past 2 months, Sergeant Keshi Mabunda and a team of detectives have been working on this case following a tip-off from relatives of the suspect. Mabunda was roped in to kickstart investigations due to his expertise in solving similar cases. The suspect will now appear on a charge of murder before the Mabatu Magistrate Court on Friday.
The suspect was arrested in connection with the murder of her cousin in Mabatu in the northwest. It's alleged that she insured her relatives, killed them and claimed payouts. She's also being investigated for the death of her son who died in July this year, her husband who died in 2016, 2 daughters who died in 2005 and 2015 respectively. A third suspect arrested in the Eastern Cape in connection with the murder of activist Loison Kohla will be appearing in the East London Magistrates Court today. Hawk spokesperson Siabulela Vugubi says the Serious Organised Crime Investigation Team traced the suspect to Pedi. The 29-year-old's arrest follows that of Zugisa Chabile and Mzianda Mdlungu. The former Seskhona People's Right Movement leader was gunned down in Philippi in April. Vugubi says it is believed that he was targeted for his role in talks to clear the Metro Rail Central line in Langa, where families had built shacks. And finally, the Communication Workers Union, CWU, has declared a wage dispute against the SABC with the CCMA. The union is demanding a 9% salary increase after the SABC rejected a backdated increase to April. Instead, the public broadcaster has offered 6% backdated to October. The union has accused the SABC of not having regard for ground workers, as they have instead rewarded middle management with 5% hike and executive with 3% wage increases. CWU National Bargaining Coordinator Nathan Bowers says if negotiations fail at the CCMA, workers will be forced to go on strike.
Clearly, we are going to bring the SABC to its knees. We are going to ensure that we cut off the airwaves. We are going to ensure that the South African public understands that these executives and middle managers are not the ones who bring the news. We are going to go on a program of action. It's going to be the mother of all program of actions that this country has seen.
Recapping your top story, Israeli forces searching in and around the biggest hospital in Gaza, Al-Shifa, say they've recovered the body of a woman nearby who was taken hostage last month by Hamas. For SAFM News, I am Luyanda Maume. Headlines at 8:30.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on the possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 38462. For a quote, Outsurance, where you always get something out. Everyone's looking forward to Black Friday deals, but there may be an easier way to save, and it's not just a once-off saving. Simply SMS out to 38462, and if Outsurance can't beat your current car insurance premium, then ask them for 500 Rand cash, or even 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free, and with the same insurer for 3 years. That's a monthly saving on your premium or the cash promise. SMS out to 38462. You've got nothing to lose. SMS now. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSB. T's and C's apply.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby as Racing 92 await the arrival of Springbok captain Siya Kolisi, and we also have Bafana coach Hugo Bruges setting his sights on the 2026 World Cup in North America. All this and more just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Couple of big ones to try and avoid. The R21 from Pretoria to the airport stays heavy, a crime scene before Olifantsfontein Road, and traffic backing back almost as far as Nelmapius Drive. Durban's had a very busy Friday. The M13 through Pinetown stays busy to the N3 Paradise Valleys. A lot of pressure from Westville across the N2 bridge through the works there. The M4 Southern Freeway easing. The M4 Ruth First Highway easing. Both of those were busy into Durban earlier today. Kumashu Highway stays jam-packed from Mallandela Road through Dust Road across the N2 and on to Chris Hardy. And Cape Town today, good barometer of how light the traffic is Marine Drive. You normally sit there Monday to Thursday, but Friday it's nice and open. You only really queue when you get to Pardon Island. And the N7 going north's the heavy one, a collision involving a truck and a taxi just north of Four Trekker Road. N7 north queues heavily from Langa. Southbound's queuing. Viking Way coming in from Elsie's, big traffic into that M7 junction, heading in through Epping as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
8:08, good morning. Well, you heard the conversation earlier around hate speech. I don't know what you think about that, by the way. Is it wrong to say all journalists are liars, all politicians are, what's a safe word, useless? I don't know. 086 000 2032. I wonder if you've got a sort of view on that. I think there is something interesting there around how we look at it. And you know me, like I try, don't let insults, but that's specifically why I've chosen the phrase journalist for so much of this conversation. And the other example is just because that's what so many people keep saying. You'll have to make up your own mind on that. Still talking about the cricket last night. Your story of the week, we'll be looking at that from 8:30, so book your spot now. We do have some time for calls as well. We spoke a little bit about the Middle East and that situation. I think there are also conversations around theft at traffic lights. What is going on there and why does it keep happening? I think there's a story there. And I mean, I'm going to keep making this suggestion to every time we speak to a council about it. Why don't you just employ some people, give them their first job? I'll contribute, for goodness sake. Here we go. I'll contribute. But let's employ people. You've got 2 shifts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And just, do go there. And if you have the same people at the same time, there'll be relationships between all of the people there. People will know each other. And that's a good thing. You will know when you get to the traffic light at this time, this person is there. And people maybe, hopefully, will look after each other as well, over time. People will bring food, whatever it is. All sorts of things, Surely it's not that hard. All right, lots to come. We'll talk about the voter registration process. Do you know where you registered to vote? Are you going to go and check? Bump into people. Just go and stand in the queue and say, how's it? How are you doing? Not hard to do. 9 after 8.
Open the Absa Cash Invest Tracker account and earn the best rates in the market. More than the top 10 money market funds' average returns. Enjoy unmatched advantages at an interest rate of 8.9% per annum. Plus, if you open your account today, you could win your share of 15 million Rand in luxury travel experiences for 2. Yes, you heard right. A trip for you and your partner. My bank does that. Open yours today in less than 5 minutes on the banking app, at your nearest Absa branch, or consult your private banker or call 0860 111 515. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
South Africa and Benin are both searching for tickets to the FIFA World Cup 2026. Bafana want to demonstrate their thirst and appetite for the global spectacle. But the Cheetahs are just as hungry for maximum points. Southern Africa versus West Africa. Catch the FIFA World Cup qualifier between South Africa and Benin on Saturday, 18 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
Life is full of challenges, and when they come your way, learn to whack your way through it.
Yeah.
My father and my mother were highly disciplined people. I remember him saying, I have decided to deny myself whatever others are enjoying, to accumulate enough money so that any of my children who wants to study would have the resources available to study so that they don't have to suffer the way I have had to suffer.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation. First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
Well, it's going to be one of those voter registration weekends ahead of next year's elections. Are you registered to vote? Have you decided who you're going to vote for? Are you planning to vote? And what's the voting area? What is the sort of voting station in your area? And I've been to many voting stations. The ones I always remember are going to Joubert Park, where they have 2 or 3 voting stations together because it's the most densely populated part of the country, or it was when I was reporting there. And I always remember speaking to the sort of electoral officer at that voting station. He had quite a famous surname, but was no relation. A very, very humble man, very nice man. Doesn't do it anymore. Unfortunately, I think. There's a lot of experience there. But I remember always talking to him. He always had so many interesting things to say. Well, let's find out a bit more about voter registration, why it's important. Terry Tselane. Terry Tselane, of course, is a former vice chair of the Electoral Commission. He's now executive chair of the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa. Mr. Tselane, good morning. Good to talk to you again.
Good morning to you, and thank you very much for having me.
I don't know if it's fair to assess it in this way, but in the past there's been a little bit of a sort of spirit or a vibe around voter registration weekends. I'm not really feeling it this time. I don't know if that's because we don't know when the election will be, because there's still sort of, a Christmas holiday to come, or more worryingly, Terry, that, maybe people just aren't interested in voting.
Well, I would like to believe that it is perhaps because there are other platforms that are being utilized this time around, such as the online registration, that makes it not to have the kind of the hype that it used to have. And also, I assume it's because of the limited resources that the Commission has in relation to publicity around the date. But remember that most of the time that after the day of the election has been announced, that's when people begin to take the registration much more seriously. So we'll probably see the rush once the date has actually been announced before the proclamation.
Is it maybe a bit sort of unwise to have voter registration weekend now then?
Look, the Electoral Commission, I'm sure it's trying to capture as many people as possible. And then it is going to be using this weekend to try to see as to whether its systems are in place, whether it's got the capacity at the level of voting station, whether it would be ready for the register. So it's almost like a dry run for them. But it is also an opportunity for them, obviously, to capture those who will be coming to the voting station level. But the hype will definitely be created at the time when the date of the election has been announced.
The other ways to register, you can do it on your phone. It's very easy to do, very quick to do. I've checked it. And does that make a difference in terms of, getting people out? And does advertising voter registration make a difference? Just like political parties campaign, and that makes a difference, the Electoral Commission, I suppose, does its own campaigning among voters.
Yes, the advertising the campaign is obviously important for the Electoral Commission. It's got to try to make sure that there are many people that it has captured in the voters' roll, because the legitimacy of the process is obviously dependent on the number of people who will be participating in the elections. Even though it does not necessarily make the election outcome unlawful, just because you've got low voter turnout, but in terms of the way it is perceived, it will definitely have an impact if it is lower voter turnout in terms of the perception of people thinking that those who are in power do not enjoy the legitimacy of office. So it is in the interest of the Commission to keep on trying to get as many people as possible to participate in the process. But it's also in the interest of the political parties to try to motivate people to register, because it is only those who are registered who will be able to participate in the process.
There are several issues that sort of come up around this time, and over the years, various opposition parties, I think the DA said this years ago, I'd need to check my memory on that, they were worried that a lot of voting happens at schools, and voting happens at schools because almost every community has a school, and the Electoral Commission needs a place to manage it, and then many of the people who are used are teachers, and many of them belong to the South African Democratic Teachers Union, which is aligned through COSATU to the ANC. I noticed the EFF raising that question in the last week. Is that a problem?
Of course, it's an issue to the extent that it has been raised by the political parties. But I think the Commission also has got the responsibility to try to unburden itself with this issue by beginning to focus more on the unemployed graduates, because we've got quite a number of them. Even though the money that they're getting is not a lot, it does make a difference for a person who is unemployed. And then those who are already employed, I think they should actually just focus on what they're supposed to be doing. This is the time for examinations. Teachers should be focusing on schools, should be focusing on their students and making sure that they are ready to participate in the examination processes instead of actually trying to focus on the electoral processes. So the Commission, I think, has got the responsibility to try to make sure that it deals with this perception. But to deal with that perception, it's got to make sure that it focuses on the unemployed graduates and many other people who are out there who do not have any income at all, because you've got quite a number of people who are capable of actually assisting the Commission to deal with this thing.
There's been all sorts of conversations over the last little while, and they'll continue for a while, about the ballot paper. And I have a lot of sympathy with the Electoral Commission here, let me just say that, because they're waiting for court cases to be finished before they know how votes will be counted, and well, not counted, but independent candidates will actually be accommodated. Let me put it better like that. And this means that we might have a 2-page ballot paper. We actually spoke to Simon Mabolo, who you'll know well, the Chief Electoral Officer, about it this week. And of course, the obvious way around that is electronic voting, and I think some countries like Namibia do that. The United States has done that with very patchy sort of success. Is electronic voting possible in South Africa? Is there any technical reason why we can't do it and other people can? And I know some politicians really don't like it.
I don't think there is any reason why we cannot actually have electronic voting in South Africa. When I was still part of the Commission, I think in 2015, we had conducted a desktop study on the possibility of introducing electronic voting. And then after that, we had a workshop. In fact, we introduced this in 2013. In 2015, we had a workshop with all the political parties. At that stage, there were two main political parties who were uncomfortable about moving forward with electronic voting. It was the Democratic Alliance and the African National Congress. And I think since then, there's been a lot of movement, particularly from the side of all these political parties. You may be aware that the DA in its conferences, it has actually been running its conference electronically. The African National Congress is also exploring that possibility of introducing electronic mechanism in their processes. Now, it shows that the country is beginning to move in a particular direction, and the Commission also has got the responsibility to now begin to expedite the issue of introducing electronic voting in the country. If you look at all the tertiary institutions currently, they are all using electronic voting for SRC elections. I think it is only Sefako Makgato University that is still using a manual system. So the country is getting ready for electronic voting, and I think the Commission has got to move with the times and make sure that they deal with this aspect, because it will alleviate the kind of the burden and the issues and the difficult issues that it is confronted with as a result of higher number of people participating in the process, either as individuals or as political parties.
Thank you very much indeed, Terry Tselane. Good to talk again. Really appreciate the time. Executive Chair of the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa.
Rand Water is concerned about the significant increase of water consumption in its areas of supply. The increase in water consumption is putting severe strain on Rand Water's distribution network. To save water, please do not wash your cars with hose pipes. Use buckets. Water your garden with sprinklers between sunset and sunrise. Do not wash your pavements with hose pipes. Use brooms. Repair your leaking taps. Cover your swimming pools to avoid quick evaporation. Shower instead of bathing in a tub.
This message is sponsored by Rand Water in partnership with City of Joburg, City of Ekurhuleni, and City of Tshwane.
It all comes together with a great partnership.
Thank you for demonstrating that indeed you are proudly South African.
Africa Borwa witnessed a great Rugby World Cup France 2023 because of your incredible support.
Great friends, great prize, and great sport.
Asibonge Casalaga. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng. The theme of the lecture is constitutionalism and upholding the rule of law in South Africa. Has corruption and malfeasance eroded the moral fabric of the democratic dispensation? The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation. Big stories of the day. #SAFM Sunrise.
22 after 8. Well, from time to time, and in fact fairly often, people will say that, for example, emergency services rushing to manage a fire in an informal settlement get lost. People will complain about that. Police will say it's dangerous for us to go in. We don't know actually where we're going. And part of this is because of maps and because of how, places are created informally. So they're not designed in a specific way. Or they're designed really by their residents as they go, as they try and survive and build their own housing. And there's a new collaboration that is going to help with mapping. It's called Plus Codes, sort of digital addresses, and it comes as a result of two companies. One's Google Earth and the other is called Plan Act. Mike Makwela is the Senior Program Coordinator of Plan Act. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen, and how are you this morning?
I'm well, thank you. I mean, we've heard about this problem for many years. What is a plus code? How does it work?
So a plus code is an address that we use for unproclaimed areas, such as informal settlement. So it gives an accurate address of a sheikh. It uses, so we are in partnership with Google. So we use the Google map. When you click into a Google map and you have a plus code address, it's a combination of letters and words and numbers, sorry. So we go to your sheikh and we create an address, what normally we call coordinates, when you use an Uber, yes. So it's a coordinate and it's as accurate as anything else. So that's what a plus code is. So it takes into consideration the longitudinal and the vertical location of an area. So this is an address designed for unproclaimed areas such as informal settlements.
Okay, so if I'm in an area a formal area, a proclaimed area, and I send someone on WhatsApp, I send them my location pin. I'm here.
Yes.
The map would then be able to, because it's in a proclaimed area, be able to take a person down the formal roads, right? Does this system then also, once you know where you are on the map, is it able to take you through a route to get to that area, even though the area is unproclaimed, doesn't have formal roads?
Absolutely. So when we do the mapping exercise, we use a transit walk, and we then in your shack, we then come and we create the Google map. In other words, we on our cell phone we say this shack it's located here, and then we put it on the system. So yes, it operates exactly like that. So if I'm in a mall and I live in an informal settlement after buying grocery and I call an Uber, it comes. I give them this plus code address. Okay, the coordinates, and it will take me exactly. It will take 10 left, 10 right, go straight. You have arrived. So that's as precise as that. That's exactly how it works. Yes.
Does it work on the normal Google Maps app, or do you need a different app?
No, Google Maps, and you don't even need a data. So as long as I give you the code, you just punch it in. Whether you're walking, whether you're driving, it will take you exactly that. So it is designed for unproclaimed areas, because we know informal settlement, they are unproclaimed, so they are not on the system of a municipality. So there must be a way to make sure that the people who live in formal settlement are also recognized. Because when you have an address, you have dignity, you are recognized, you are known, and you can access services, goods and services. Yes.
It's incredible. I mean, to do it, did you have to get community members, because they know their own areas, to sort of chart the way?
Yes, so we get preferably young people, because we use technology. And then when we do the transit walk, they know the area better. And from the Google map, you will think that there's a street. And when you go physically on the ground, you'll find that it's actually a passage. So you need local people who will tell you, no, this is a passage, this is a road. This shack was not supposed to be here. It used to be a road. And so, local community people know their area much better. And then we then reproduce the map in terms of the standards. But so that's how we do it. And then, of course, we then come with the technology to give you a code. And then we put the plus code on your shack. Quite interesting. I mean, it takes you exactly there, not even 2 meters away. It's as accurate as anything else. Yes.
Really incredible, Mike. Thank you very much indeed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Mike Makwela is Senior Program Manager Coordinator of the NGO Plan Act, really changing the lives of people. 28 minutes after 8.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. Well, lots of rugby going on.
Yes, and they're all waiting in anticipation for Siya Kolisi. That's when two of, rugby in France, the top sides are going to meet in the top 14 tomorrow. The leaders, Stade Francais, host Racing 92. And although South Africa's two-time Rugby World Cup winning captain Siya Kolisi is not expected to make his debut for Racing 92 for another week. Now, he has arrived in Paris, but the Springbok skipper is eyeing next Sunday's home game with La Rochelle for his Racing 92 debut. Meanwhile, the Blitzboks will reportedly kick off the 2023-2024 Sevens campaign in December without the services of a key member of their management team. The South Africans launched their Dubai Sevens title defence against Samoa on the 2nd of December before a clash against last season's overall champions New Zealand. Now, Blitzbok head coach Sandile Ngcobo had heel surgery this week and will probably prevent him from travelling to Dubai. Ngcobo, who is understood to fell during a training session, underwent an operation. Assistant coach Philip Snyman is expected to take charge in his absence. Soccer action, Mozambique getting their 2026 World Cup qualification campaign off to a perfect start. They had a 3-2 away win over Group G rivals Botswana at the Obaditani Chilume Stadium in Francistown yesterday. Mozambique will return to Group G action on Sunday when they faced Algeria in Maputo, while Botswana will welcome Guinea to Francistown. That's on Tuesday. Soccer News Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta has been charged by the Football Association for comments he made after their 1-0 defeat by Newcastle. Arteta called the video assistant referee decision to allow Newcastle's goal embarrassing and a disgrace. Anthony Gordon's goal had 3 VAR checks and all were judged in Newcastle's favour. Arteta has until Tuesday to respond to the charge. And finally, Novak Djokovic's fate at the ATP Finals hangs in the balance. Despite his win over Hubert Hurkacz yesterday, now he defeated Hurkacz, a replacement for the injured Stefanos Tsitsipas, 7-6, 4-6, 6-1 in Turin. This is what Djokovic had to say.
I was focused to win the match, so I did. It's the outcome of tonight's match is in my hands, so that's it. I'm really not thinking about it. I'm just thinking about hugging my kids at the moment.
That's your wrap of your sport. We'll have more for you on SFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thank you very much indeed. Your story of the week. What for you is the biggest issue of the week? What happened to you this week? 086 000 2032. That's next. It's 8:30.
Thank you, Stephen. In your headlines, police say they plan to exhume more bodies of the relatives of a woman arrested on suspicion that she murdered them to benefit from insurance payouts. The 49-year-old suspect was linked through analysis and collection of evidence, including the exhumation of a body. The fraud and corruption case of former SAA board chairperson Tutumieni and Sondolo IT director Trevor Matenjwa resumes at the Richards Bay Magistrate Court on the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal today. The case relates to payments of 300,000 rand from Bosasa and its subsidiary Sondolo IT. And Sudan has asked the UN to immediately terminate the UN political mission in the country. A letter from Sudan's acting foreign minister Ali Sadex to the Secretary General Antonio Guterres requests the UN to terminate the mission while assuring the UN chief that the government of Sudan was committed to engaging constructively. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Top story is the big delays on the R21 linking Pretoria down to the airport. If you've got flight connections to get to, or you got an appointment in the Ekurhuleni side, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through this. It's a heavy queue from just after Nel Mapius all the way down to a crime scene just before you get to the Olifantsfontein exit. If you want to come off at Irene exit Nel Mapius and go down the sort of Pretoria Road, the M18 into Clayville and sort of beat the R21 queue, just note there is some queuing pressure. Has been all week. Nel Mapius Drive moving into the main road junction. Joburg generally looking okay. It's eased up after a moderately busy Friday. Durban side today, the M13, Westfield Sherwood stays really busy with the roadworks at the N2 bridge, particularly driving Durban bound, if you like. Cape Town Marine Drive looking nice and empty for a run from Tableview through Milnerton. No major problems there. The N7 going north is staying slow from Epping up to Goodwood after an earlier crash just after 4 Trekker Road. There's a lot of pressure around that junction in the heart of Goodwood. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
It's for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 45 Rand from Pretoria to Midrand. It's for our clever who turn 5-liter bottles into workout dumbbells. And for the slim oaks who bring a home-cooked scuff team to work every day. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 45 Rand from Pretoria to Midrand Station. Gautrain, for people on the move.
Dear Africa Chipembe,
Siyabonga.
Rialeboga. Thank you for experiencing the Rugby World Cup France 2023 in your language of choice on SABC radio stations and SABC TV channels.
This journey is fulfilling and exhilarating when you are on board.
The front row belongs to Africa Tonga.
Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
When something is in the heart, you really don't need to be checking as if it was something that was designed to facilitate your appointment. One of the things that I promised the nation was to make sure that transformation happens, with a view to ensuring that work is somewhat evenly distributed among whites, black people, and both black and white women. That is the one responsibility among many that I have pursued with everything within my heart.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
All right, 086 000 2032. Your story of the week. What for you is the issue? What happened to you this week? Always good to hear how your week's been, in a way. We start this morning with Dina in Pietermaritzburg. Dina, hi. Siya Khaleesi.
A very good morning to you, Stephen, and a very good morning to SAFM listeners. I have the highest regards for Siya Khaleesi. But what he has done is he has abandoned the youth of South Africa. He has abandoned rugby development at grassroots levels. He's abandoned the people in Soweto and the rural townships. Now, he's taken a lucrative contract with Racing 92 in Paris. He's left Soweto, he's left South Africa, and he's gone to the bright lights of Paris. And he's earning his money in euros now, not rand, euros. Now, my concern is about development of rugby at grassroots levels and for the youth. The youth used him as a role model, as a mentor. He's an excellent ambassador. He's got the charisma, he's got the gift of the gab, everything. But the concern is he's going to be there for 3 years. What happens if he comes back injured? What happens with his personal life? And what happens to the development of rugby in South Africa?
Well, I mean, the man is married. He can make his own choices about that. But Dina, okay, so, I mean, I hear you, but my understanding of a rugby career, and I'm no expert on this, is you've got up until you're maybe 35 to make money. And I mean, the time that most people, if they're working from 20 to 35, is when you build your career. Right? And that was certainly, I suppose, the case for me. I was lucky enough to do that. But I mean, he's losing that. And after that, he can't play anymore. So doesn't he need to, he needs to earn the money now that's got to, educate his children. I think that would be the sort of argument.
No, my argument is, Stephen, is that SA Rugby must come on board. They must come on board and they must pay him in dollars, pay him in Australian dollars, and keep him here in South Africa. We've got the money.
So
now, why are we sending our top, even our coach, Jacques is in Ireland. He's earning pounds. Pay these guys in dollars. Keep them here. We need them here to develop our youth.
Okay, interesting. Do you think? I mean, would it apply to all of the national rugby players, all of the Springboks?
These guys are special guys. Siya Khaleesi is a special guy. You're not going to get him again. He's 1 in a million. I can tell you that. I've seen him play. He's excellent.
Yeah.
Now, we need to keep those people here. I mean, look at, I don't want to mention names. It's on radio. It's not fair. Our winger, he went off to Paris. He went off to France. He never came back. His name is now in the Hall of Fame. There in Paris and in the world.
Yeah, but he also saved us the World Cup. I mean, some of his last-minute tackles were just incredible.
Yes, most certainly. Now, we need those guys here.
All right. Dina, in Pietermaritzburg. Interesting. I hadn't thought of that argument. All right. I don't know if you agree with Dina or not. All right. Let's go to Ronald in Priska. We haven't been to Priska for a long time, Ronald. Good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. You should, on your next break, come and make a turn in Priska, Stephen.
It's the Northern Cape. I think I had to learn an Afrikaans literature poem about Priska in 1993, Ronald. So it's a long time ago.
Yes, that's good. Stephen, I just have 2 points that I want to make, Stephen. The one is the long queues on a voting day.
Yes.
Is a discouragement for people to go and vote. We know that public holiday, it's not really people going out. So I want to know, why aren't we changing this to a 2-day voting? I think that will definitely increase the number of people that goes out to vote.
Back in 94. Would both days be public holidays?
Stephen, it doesn't necessarily have to be. The first voting day of special registration is not a public holiday. And that day can be used for people also to go and vote like normally. And then, the second day being a public holiday.
Yeah.
That will definitely, I think, increase the number of people that goes out to vote. on that day. And then secondly, Stephen, I just want to encourage the people from the Northern Cape in all other provinces other than the Northern Cape to please go out this weekend and register, and to make sure that come 2024 that they send their vote to the Northern Cape, that they vote for the Northern Cape Communities Movement, and give our province a voice.
That's free campaigning, Ronald. Okay. Careful.
Thank you. Thank you
Ronald,
very
thank
much,
you. All right,
Stephen.
on the line from Priska. Appreciate that. Okay, just sneaking in a little campaign message there. All right, Ronald, thank you. Craig on the line from Joburg. You heard that call around Siya Kolisi. What do you think?
Good morning, Stephen. Yes, I mean, I totally disagree. I think we've got to remember that Siya is a global icon. And so the value that his playing ability to play in France, what it does for the team, for South Africa as a whole, it is just massive. And we should also not forget the work that the Siya Kolisi Foundation does. And so Siya's his whole body of work is so much more than just playing in South Africa for a season or two. So I think we should not, he's given so much to this nation already and continue to do. And so I think it's a little bit unfair, the comment that the gentleman from Durban made.
Yeah, I was surprised that was the way he was going. I mean, it's interesting. I suppose in a way you've got to say someone's done so much for us. We've got to also release them for a while, and the money that they make is really going to go to their families. So we've got to sort of see it in that way.
Absolutely agree. And again, the work that the income that he earns his rugby career is only for a short period of time, and equally the money that he puts back into the foundation and the work that it does over a period of time should not be underestimated.
All right, Craig in Johannesburg, thank you. All right, disagreeing with Dina there. Interesting. Lots of calls coming through on various issues around Gaza. Let's go to Craddock. Hey, is it Rolex? Hi.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm well, Rolex. Good morning.
Okay. Now, Stephen, I just want to speak about crime. I think, our constitution needs to be reviewed out. The reason why, a criminal, for example, God forbid, a person comes to your house, break your house, kill your family. If you have a gun, a licensed gun, the person is running away, you can shoot him behind. So it means he's going to commit another crime.
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that, Rolex, but yes, I know there's case law on that, but yes, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is that ways our government when it comes about breaking out all these robots, and the other thing is that where's the traffic cops in this all robots out when there is a road shedding? If you go to other countries, you see that immediately if there's road shedding, immediately the traffic cops are there. Particularly in the morning, you must see everybody is rushing to go there, and when accidents happen, this is a responsibility to our government. But it looks like government is doing nothing.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. I mean, I don't know if changing the constitution will change anything. You need the police. You need all sorts of things to happen.
Yeah, right. But, because it looks our constitution favoring this criminal.
All right. Rolex on the line from Craddock. Thank you. I know people do agree with you. I don't know if it would make a change, but let's see. Billy and Sekekune, hi. Billy, good morning. You're calling around abuse in schools.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm well, Billy. Go for it.
Fine. This week we learned of a school which abuses girl children in the name of Christianity.
Where was this?
Here in Skukuni at the village called Mashali. What happens is that this particular school which forces children to attend church services after study. Now, only to find that it's not only about church, but there are other things which they do there. So the child decided not to go to church anymore.
Yeah.
And what happened to the child is that then so-called pastor took the belt and whipped the child.
Really?
Girl child. Yes.
How old is the child?
It's around 17, 18.
Sure. That's completely illegal. Completely illegal.
So she was whipped and whipped. Now, only to find that the issue of going to church was not actually the cause for concern there. There are other issues that the pastor was doing to the children.
Well, any adult who does that I mean, it's just completely wrong on every level. Were the police told? Because it's assault as well.
Yeah, he has just been arrested, and apparently he's going to be charged with a near what's it called, GBH.
Yeah, good.
What is that? Yeah.
Good. Sure, Billy.
But that's not the issue, because there must be an investigation. What has actually happened in that school? Because we are told of other things that there are some sexual molestations of children.
Sure.
So the school must also be closed.
Yeah.
We call for that.
Well, look, I mean, I think people can call for that. I think there needs to be a proper investigation. Is the Gauteng, does the Education Department know?
No, it's the Limpopo.
Limpopo, yes, yeah. Does the Limpopo Education Department...
Yeah, it does know, but it's defending these teachers all the time.
Oh,
They will talk of not having any evidence for those things. They must conduct an investigation.
Yeah.
They must interview all the children who studied there, even those who are no longer studying. What has been happening for them?
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Billy and Sekukone, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. 086 000 2032. You may remember last week Sandile phoned from Peter Maritzburg, Umsunduzi, and he told us the story of what had happened to him. He's unsighted, he's blind, he can't see, and he lives in a mud house, and no one in his family is able to work, and the house then collapsed, and he basically asked for help. He's back on the line now. Sandile, hi, good morning. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Grootes. How are you?
I'm well, sir. Please call me Stephen. How are you doing?
Stephen, no, I'm good. And good morning to your team and SAFM listeners. After that call on Friday, I think it was around 1:30, someone from the office of the MEC called me, delegated by the MEC. And on Monday, the ward committee member came to the house to take photographs. And on Tuesday evening, the mayor of Peter Maritzburg, of Umsunduzi, called me, and we had a meeting with him at Ward 41 on Wednesday.
Sure, the mayor himself?
Yes.
Wow.
And yesterday I was at the mayor's office as well. Met with the guy Sinpiwe and Bambo from Human Settlements, and there's a gentleman who came from Durban, who is an MP, member of Parliament, who also came through, but I could not remember his name or his surname.
Okay.
But there is great progress.
Oh, fantastic.
And they have said that there would be something done, and urgently, because, as I'm saying, the MP was very worried because he saw the structure of the house, and he says, no, this house deserves to be collapsed, because it will collapse on us.
Sure. Sandile, I'm so pleased to hear that people are actually acting, and a member of the provincial legislature, I think, got in touch with them last week and said that this would happen, and we put them on air and they said that they would act. So I'm glad they followed up on it. Gosh, Sandile, look, I'm so pleased for you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for this platform.
Sure, of course.
This platform, I think it opens up doors, especially for people who are not sure where to go.
Yes.
Because once you tap this door, then you'll understand which doors you can approach.
Sandile, thank you, and thank you for the feedback, and congratulations to you and to your family, and let us know, please, if it all goes through. Let us just make sure that actually it all sort of sorts itself out. I'm really pleased to hear that. And look, often you'll always hear me say, when people ask for help, I'll say no promises, because we can't, we don't know what's going to happen is actually going to happen, and whether these things are going to happen. In fact, the mayor of Umsunduzi, Councillor Mzumkhulu Tubola, is on the line now. Mr. Mayor, good morning.
Good morning, Steve, and your listeners.
Thank you for what you're doing for Sandile. We really appreciate it.
No, it's our work. We are here to serve our people, and of course, if we don't know about it, we can't do anything. But the moment we hear, and thanks to radio and all other forms of media, because look, we wouldn't have known of Sandile's plight had he not raised it with you. Of course, we have platforms at Msunduzi where people can talk to us, but it's not everybody who is able to access us. I know that.
No, of course. So look, thank you. And I mean, you're going to be able to move quite quickly on this. There are photos and all the rest now. You'll be able to sort out some accommodation. I mean, will you send us photos when it's done, Mr. Mayor? Maybe in a week or two.
I promise you, because the first thing is just to make sure that we get him a temporary arrangement whilst we are busy planning on the long-term solution to his plight. It's not Sandile, but it's about everybody who has a problem. We are working with our people in Sunduzi to try and resolve some of these challenges.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you for being available, and thank you for acting. Quite a few people have acted together on this. I really do appreciate the time. Councillor Mzumkhulu Tabola is the mayor of Umsunduzi, just getting in touch. And Sandile, thank you for raising the issue, and I'm so glad it's working out in the way that it is. 10 minutes to 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Yes, the biggest queue by far is Gauteng's R21. It's a really bad backlog of traffic, really severe. It's Pretoria down to OR Tambo International Airport for your flight connections and appointments in the Ekurhuleni area. It's a crime scene just before Olifantsfontein Road. Left lane is closed, so not too much in terms of lane restrictions, but mainly onlookers. It really is heavy. If you're heading down to the airport, make sure you've got plenty of time. If you want to duck out of it and take Nel Mapius Drive via Irene and down the side roads through Clayville, you'll sit in traffic on Nel Mapius being bad all week coming from the college there down into the main road junction with all that traffic diverting. It's even heavier this morning. The N3, just a bit of a hold-up going up to Buccleuch on the northbound track. That is a broken down vehicle. Durban's M13, heavily congested from Westville, driving through to Durban at the N2 Highway Bridge. That's a bad backlog of traffic through those roadworks. Cape Town, pretty gentle sort of Friday morning compared to what we've had Monday to Thursday. Marine Drive, for example, clear. You're only getting a little bit of a backlog at the N1 Highway. Pardon Island, Coburg Road, though, is an unusual queue. That's a heavy backlog if you're coming out of Tableview through Milnerton. Big queues there towards the Bosmansdam Road exit. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
It's about a little more than just an X on that ballot paper. It's about South knowing what I want, where I'm going, and who I want to take with on this journey. To me, it's not just a vote. It's my democracy. I own it. So show up and register for what you stand for. From Giyani to Umlazi, Pitori to Matatiel. Bring your green bar-coded ID, smart card or temporary ID certificate. Stations open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 18 to 19 November 2023. Or register online by going to elections.org.za or call 0800 11 8000. It's your democracy. Own it. Brought to you by the IEC.
Pakishani. We are going to Durban when Bafana face Benin in the FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifiers. On Saturday, 18 November at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Gates open at 12 p.m. and tickets are available for 50 Rand for adults and 20 Rand for children at Ticket Pro. Come dressed in your national colors to support Bafana to win prizes. If you are not in Durban, catch the game on SABC 1 at 3 p.m. Also available on sabcsport.com.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng.
I reflected on the lives of these men and said, Steve Biko could have been a medical doctor. Aubrey Mokwape, they could have been medical doctors, but for the sake of me and many others, they chose a path of justice. What challenges me all the time is there are multitudes out there who are unemployed, who are uneducated, people who from time to time go to bed without food. This is an opportunity to use this privilege, to use this position for the advancement of the cause of justice, because there is so much more that still needs to be done out there.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
All right, good to hear from you this morning. 086 000 2032. Denzel on the line from Kimberley. Denzel, hi. You want to talk about the Proteas?
Hi, Mr. Grootes.
Denzel, good morning.
Stephen.
Yeah.
Stephen, we are going to have an immediate conversation about the Proteas. We have a perfect opportunity now to have that
immediate conversation, Mr. Grootes.
All right. What specifically about them?
Why they suck so much? Why they can't perform? I'm talking about athletes. Even if I compare the Proteas with the Springboks, these are professional athletes.
Yeah.
The Springboks are on another level.
Yeah.
Now the Proteas, and I believe they choke because they had an opportunity. All of them, most of the players, they play in India. They know the...
Sure. But Denzel, the same is true of almost all of the people playing in the World Cup. Most of them play in India. I mean, when you get to that point, when you get to the last four, there's a little bit of luck and there's a little bit of this, especially in cricket.
It's not about luck even. The game before that, they must read the conditions, the pitch. You know, cricket is complicated. If you get the toss wrong, if you must read the pitch, things can go. And if you are selected, now that's where I come in. The selectors got it wrong. Poor Temba Bavuma. There I feel for that guy.
Yeah.
I really feel for that guy.
No,
and I
course.
feel for guys that are up to it. They want to perform, but that's why the immediate conversation comes in.
All right.
Because this thing about the selectors, the whole management board of Cricket South Africa.
All right.
What is going on there?
All right, Denzel, thank you. Look, we'll consider it. I don't know. We've got a lot on our plate for mediated conversations at the moment, actually. But Denzel and Kimberly, thank you. Louis in Klerksdorp, hi. Israel and Palestine. Louis, why don't you just switch me off? I know you've been on hold for a while. Yes, you're on the radio. Good morning.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the radio. Hey, Louis. Louis, switch me off, please. You need to switch off the radio, and then we can talk. So if you can just switch off the radio, then we'll talk. All right, Louis?
No, the radio is off.
Okay,
Hello?
there we are. Good morning. You're on the radio, Louis. Go for it. Okay, Louis, I'm afraid that radio isn't off. Chaka on the line from Mangung. Hi, the situation in Gaza.
Morning, Steve.
Go for it.
Steve, before I say what I'm saying on Palestine, I just got to give the advice on the registration of elections.
Voter registration, yeah.
Yes, I think the state must make it compulsory to vote. There must be an act that...
Oh, really? Like in Australia?
Like in Australia, yes. And then they must give appropriate sanctions. Like during the weekend, you go and clean the pigsty or you go and work at a mortuary.
I like that idea, yeah. Geez, work at a mortuary, yeah.
Any dirty job that and it interferes with their fun time as well.
I don't know. I think a right to vote also must include a right to not vote.
Yeah, they can't have rights without obligations. I think in South Africa, people just want to have rights, but they don't want to fulfill their obligations. Yeah, on Palestine, the media, one caller was speaking about this morning in a show about the reporting the media
about the numbers. He said that we should have said Israel says 1,400 or 1,200. It's 1,200.
Yeah, but I think that one can be resolved by quoting when the SABC does the news. He says according to Reuters or whatever news source.
Yeah.
So many people died, and according to Al Jazeera, for instance, because you'll find the Western media, they always come with a different narrative, and then Al Jazeera has got his journalists. They take quite a big risk.
Even in Al Jazeera, you have the Arabic service and you have the English service, and my understanding is, I can't speak Arabic, but my understanding is that within Al Jazeera, you get very different views.
Yes. No, it's fine. There's no problem. You can only the news service can only say, according to Al Jazeera Arabic service.
Yeah, I suppose.
This is the situation. Al Jazeera English service. This is the situation because people get the wrong perceptions. Like I remember the Freedom Front when they were condemning the Hamas and so on, and then the leader came with a view that the Hamas went out and killed children and beheaded them and so on. And it was since found out that it was not true. That the main focus of Hamas was capturing the army bases around Israel. And as well, I think I also heard something during the week that Israeli soldiers were providing some medicine and so on. It was a noon news, something which was rather surprising because when the Israeli soldiers went to the hospital, that's also according to Al Jazeera English service. They bombed the medical depot there and so on. So how could they bomb the medical depot and then,
give medicine.
Yeah.
On the other hand, yeah.
Yeah. No, Chaka, I mean, I hear you. All right, thank you. I mean, there's a lot to look at there. Derek in East London, quickly, please, vote. The importance of voter registration. Hi.
Thank you for taking my call. Well, I want to make a comment on these political parties who are pushing for voter registration and voting. What disturbs me is the fact that we have an epidemic, for lack of better word, that is happening in this country, and no political party is talking about it, and that is drug abuse and drug selling.
Yeah.
Our communities are being destroyed by drugs, and to the point where we have cartels now, and no political party is talking about it. And I want to challenge also you, the media, when these political parties come to campaign or you give them interviews, ask them about these things.
Okay.
See, now Malema is talking about closing the Israeli embassy.
But not about drugs.
How about they close in their communities, local people who are selling drugs?
All right. No, Derek in East London. All right, I hear you. Thank you. And look, Derek provides me with a good opportunity to just remind you to go and register to vote over the weekend. Go and spend time with your community as well. But just go and check that you can actually vote. If you don't, next year you might be a bit disappointed. All right, we will see you on Monday. Lots going on over the weekend. Kathy is next. Thanks for being with us this morning. From Zelma, Stanza and Do, myself, look after yourself. You're with SFM leading the conversation, 9 o'clock.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Thank you, Stephen. In your top stories, a woman faces murder charge over insurance payouts, and Israeli military says it has discovered body of a hostage. This is SAFM News. A very good morning. I am Luyanda Maume. Police say they plan to exhume more bodies of the relatives of a woman arrested on suspicion that she murdered them to benefit from insurance payout. The 49-year-old suspect was linked through analysis and collection of evidence, including the exhumation of a body. She was arrested in Centurion in Pretoria yesterday with the help of the police and an insurance company. She'll be appearing in the Mabatu Court today in Northwest. National Police spokesperson Atlenda Mate says they are probing 5 of her relatives' mysterious deaths.
We are looking at least 5 cases. We know that our police officers from Mutini where her son died earlier this year, are also en route to Mafeking, where they will present the docket. The magistrate and prosecutor will decide whether or not they enroll that particular case, if there's enough evidence, or do we wait until the son's body is also exhumed. So also in the daughter's death and the husband's death, we are going to try as the police to convince the magistrate, the prosecutor, if indeed we can exhume those bodies so that we do a thorough investigation.
The fraud and corruption case of former SAA board chairperson Dudu Myeni and Sondolo IT director Trevor Matunjwa resumes at the Richards Bay Magistrates Court on the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal today. The case is related to payments of 300,000 rand from Bosasa and its subsidiary Sondolo IT. Myeni was implicated in Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's state capture report after a former Bosasa executive testified that she had received payments from the company. In the charge sheet, the state alleges that Myeni, as the SAA board chairperson at the time, had failed to disclose or declare the benefits she allegedly received from Bosasa. NPA's investigative directorate spokesperson is Sindisiwe Sibuka.